evening, everyone. I'd like to open the meeting for March 19, 2019.
Opening statement, let the minutes reflect that adequate notice of the holding of this regular meeting of the Howell Township Council was provided for in the following manner: by the posting of a copy of said notice upon the bulletin board in the Township Municipal Building on January 3, 2019, by the copy of said notice to the Tri-Town News and Star Ledger for information and publication on January 3, 2019, by the filing of a copy of said form of notice in the Township Clerk's office on January 3, 2019. The public will be allowed to attend and will be allowed to participate pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law. The public is reminded that civility and decorum will be maintained during the meeting. Any contracts awarded at this meeting or between now and the next meeting will be required to comply with the requirements of Public Law 1975, Chapter 127. In accordance with the Fire Prevention Code, be advised that this facility is designed with emergency exits for your safety. Upon exiting the meeting room, they are to your left and to your right. Furthermore, smoking is not permitted in the municipal building. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Television. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich.
Present.
Ms. Richmond.
Present.
Mr. Russo.
Here.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell.
Here.
Mayor Berger.
Present. Is there any reason to go into executive session this evening?
Yes, Mayor, we have items to discuss under litigation and attorney-client privilege.
Perfect. At this point, can I have a motion to go into executive?
Motion to go into executive session?
May I have a second?
I'll second.
In favor? Oh, roll call.
I'm going to read the resolution first. The
Thank
governing
you.
body of the Township of Howell is authorized pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12 to exclude the public from that portion of the meeting for purposes of discussing specific matters as permitted by NJSA 10:4-12, whereas the governing body of the Township of Howell intends to discuss certain matters which are deemed confidential pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12. Whereas at this time, the governing body of the Township of Howell cannot determine the time when the discussion to be held in executive session will be made public, but will disclose the minutes of executive session when the need for confidentiality no longer exists. Now therefore be it resolved by the governing body of the Township of Howell that this meeting shall be adjourned to an executive session, and the public will be excluded in order that the governing body of the Township of Howell may discuss the items previously listed, and upon reconvening this public meeting, the presiding officer will announce, if possible, the time when and the circumstance under which a discussion conducted in executive session will be disclosed to the public. Roll call. Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Excuse us for coming in a couple of minutes late. We were just finishing up in executive session. At this point, I would like to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, and please take a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May we have acceptance of the minutes? Now, they weren't online. No. Penny?
Yes?
Are the minutes for the previous meeting, were they online?
For March 5? No, they're not put online until you accept them.
Approve.
Approve them.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of March 5, 2019.
I'll second.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
I'm sorry, I have to abstain. I did not read them. I'm very sorry. At this point, do we have any reports for the officials?
Yes, Mayor, I have a number of items to review with the governing body. The first one is Monmouth County is looking to establish a solar project. You may recall about a year ago, last March, the governing body passed a resolution supporting that. As it turns out, they've come up with a few issues that have to be worked out through various deeds, restrictions that were enacted. So myself and Joe have been working with them, but it's looking like it should be worked out shortly, and I'll have more information for the governing body. We're hoping to be able to offset some of our sewer costs that the town has been incurring for that landfill for a number of years moving forward.
Excellent.
And it would be a positive all the way around.
Thank you.
Second item regarding our homeless situation. As you know, Estelle Lane property is closed. The residents that were remaining there had until Monday, March 18th to depart the property. They did in compliance with the agreement that was spelled out with Dr. Roberts, so that property is now vacant.
No issues, nothing?
None reported. We had a number of homeless individuals also staying in Bear Swamp Park. We've been working to have them removed, and literally it's about 5 p.m. today, the last person has been relocated. I do have DPW going out there tomorrow morning just to double-check the area for any remnants. The State Forest Fire Service will be doing controlled burning in that area in the near future. So those were the two largest areas of homeless that we were dealing with that seem to have been resolved.
Thank you.
We're currently working, we were recently awarded a grant through the DEP for $12,000. DPW's been working with the Green Team for the installation of car charging stations. We're trying to identify locations now to place them, so I'll be soliciting council's input in the future on that.
Just a question, I don't know. Would it be on our property, or would it be on like a gas station property or in a parking lot?
No, most likely our property. The two popular locations being discussed are here at Town Hall and also at the Park and Ride. We just have to make sure it's feasible for both locations.
Which park and ride? Just asking.
9 in Alders.
Okay.
This Thursday at 6 p.m., our Municipal Alliance is hosting a Narcan training seminar here. There's limited seating. It's first come, first serve, but the people that do attend will be given instructions on how to use Narcan, and they'll be given a free Narcan kit that's being provided through our Municipal Alliance. And then finally, the last thing is there was a late add-on to the agenda for the purchase of property, something that just came to light as recently as late last week. We have the opportunity to purchase 10 acres that's directly adjacent to Deerwood Park. We were able to use open space funds for that currently, and Jim Herman has started the process to apply for Green Acres funding for that. So it's something that popped up at short notice. It was a great opportunity for the
Excellent
town.
opportunity. Absolutely. Great job.
And that's all I have currently.
Thank you.
Okay,
No?
that's all. Penny?
Yes, I do, Mayor. So I'll read into the record that the add-on to the agenda is ordinance 019-21, 11.6, purchase of land, block 42, lot 88, Lakewood Allenwood Road, open space. Also, I just wanted to, Mayor and Council, as you're aware, the polling places to change in Howell Township for the overall safety and security of our community. Voting polling places have been removed from all Howell Township schools. This change is effective for the upcoming primary election on June 4, and from this point forward, sample ballots will show the new location as your polling place. Anyone that votes will get a postcard. Beginning of April, we'll send that out advising them of their new polling place.
And I'm sure it'll be on the website.
Oh, absolutely.
So
we're gonna
everybody can look at the
advertise
website to
wherever
make
we
sure
can.
that Perfect, thank you.
Mayor, I
Thank you,
have
Penny.
at one point.
Please.
Penny, regarding the St. William the Abbot Church, there was an inquiry about whether the preschool was going to be closed during voting hours. Is that accurate?
That is
Yeah.
accurate. St. William the Abbot has,
There's no school in session?
will close the daycare and school on election days.
Great, thank you.
Councilman, if I may, just so you know, I did respond to that resident to advise him that.
Great. I think he had 5 responses, I think, now.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we ready? At this point, I would open up for, is there any discussion from council? I did want to mention a couple things. We met with the garden here in Howell, and they are in need of a new fence. And so I was hoping that anybody that hears me would be willing to donate some dollars so that they can get this new fence. I believe they have half the amount of money for the fence. I think that it's a great community garden. If I remember correctly, Brian, 1,000 pounds of fruit and vegetables?
I believe it was 15.
1,500?
1,500.
1,500 pounds. I mean, that's a huge deal. And they donate to food pantries and Joshua House. So if anybody feels it in their heart to give a couple of dollars so that we can upgrade that fence, I think that we should do that. And actually, I am willing to donate to that personally. So I will be contacting them directly.
Someone does want to donate, how do they go about that? Will you have some-
I don't, there is no process
Formal
at this point, because we just had a discussion. So I guess if you want to just contact the community garden, the executive director there, then you might be able to reach out and get, some information on where, if you like to donate, that you can donate to. Okay, I'd like to, there was one other thing that I wanted to mention. Last week, there was, in town, our police department is an amazing group of men and women. There was an issue last week, and I have to say that they handled themselves so appropriately and wonderfully, and we should really thank every police officer that we have. They're really great in Howell, and there was a tragic event last week, but our team was just there, and they were on target and on the mark, and I just want to applaud them for the team, the work that they do, the EMS as well as police. It's just, we have an amazing group that works in Howell. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Excuse me.
Yes,
If we're
ma'am.
just doing regular announcements, I would like to tell you that Community Alliance is having a fundraiser that will be held at the Texas Roadhouse on March 27th, and 15% of the proceeds go back to Community Alliance. So between 4 and 10, please feel free to have your dinner at the Texas Roadhouse, and that will help support the Community Alliance, which, by the way, works very closely with our PD and other outreach groups, including Loud and Clear. So they do a great job.
Thank you. So I would like to open this portion of the meeting. Barbara Dixell. Barbara, you're screaming in the middle of the room.
I'm sorry, I can't get off the stage.
Yeah, she wants me to go first because she wants.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
come up to the microphone. Well, Barbara, you come up and sit. Ma'am, please.
How are you guys?
Hello.
I never did this before, so give me a minute. So I want to begin by saying thank you for being proactive in creating an ordinance for the 5G. I was not a resident at the time, in June.
Mayor, for the record, name and address?
I'm so sorry.
Gina Kaplan, 20 Rimwood Lane, Howell. So sorry, I know now, okay. However, being that the requirements were not put in effect until this January that passed, I'm asking that you respectively revisit and update the ordinance, and make sure that the ordinance provides the highest level of restrictions on 5G and small towers. I will email everyone up here the whole plan. I'm just gonna summarize because it's kind of long. The first thing I would suggest is a public resolution denouncing Section 704 of the 1996 Federal Telecom Act, which created a rule that disallows the consideration of the environmental, meaning health and biological effects of wireless. This is an actual law that basically says we have done 0 studies because we don't have to. We're not liable for the damage we cause, and you must implement these small cells. I believe we could be the first town in the area to do so, following on the steps of Portland and Montana, who have also issued a public resolution. In addition, New Hampshire House has actually passed a bill to address 5G concerns. So I'd be proud to be part of a town that takes leadership on this issue. And 2, I ask that of course, the ordinance is revisited. The current plan is to put these small cell towers that no one can question regarding health in front of our homes and our schools. They are asking, excuse me, let me just put this child on the floor. They are asking 500 feet from each at height length. So where I live, that would be every other house. I've sent a 20-page letter to everyone on the committee during this week documenting what EMFs are doing, the cancers that it's causing children in schools across the country, and now they want a much greater frequency, and they want it right in your backyard, where you sleep at night. I really would love if you guys could take a look. I already went through the ordinance that was already written. I highlighted everything where we could tighten it up and change it. This way it's safer for all of us, for our children, for our residents. I'll be happy to leave a copy for you, but I'll be happy to email anyone as well. And I'll be happy to work with you on this as well.
So, hi, how are you? So, I'm the township attorney, and I would love for you to send me everything that you have, and I will take a look at it. As I think we've told you, or the township manager mentioned, our ordinance was drafted at the same time as Little Silver's, and it was passed around the same time. So, having said that, it's still pretty recent. It's June of 2018. But I'm happy to look at everything you have, and if there's a way to tighten up the ordinance,
That'd be
then
great.
we'll look into doing that.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay.
My child's crawling, I gotta go.
No problem.
Thank you. Do you want me to leave this, or I'll just email it?
You can email it to me, that way I'll have it and I can print it
Thank
if
you,
I
guys.
need to. Yeah.
Good night.
Good night. Come on.
Ms. Dixell?
Thank you.
Barbara Dixell, 62A Piazza Vittoria, Freehold, New Jersey. May I add on to what that lady said? For very, very many years, and any of you who have seen me here for very, very many years ago, I fought all the cell towers. I testified, if you remember, I testified at every planning board, at every zoning board, at everything. No, it's federal. No, you can't fight it. Yeah, you don't have a leg to stand on. They approved it. It's federal government. I wish everybody luck, but I used to have all the reports from Russia, all the reports from here, all the reports from all the cell towers that give children brain injury, brain cancer, all kinds of cancers, all kinds of diseases, and no, you can't fight it. And I wish there was a way we can do it, but I wish everybody good luck, because I used to have this much stuff of reports that I had, and I used to testify at every meeting that had a cell tower. It's unfortunate, but I'm sorry. I wish we could win it, but I have a feeling it's a lost cause, because the federal government said there is no proof that it causes cancer. There is absolutely no proof. It's wonderful. No, it's not. No, it's not. Let me go on. I wish I still had all the information. I would give you that much of it. Okay. So let me ask you. I'm going to go 9A1. You're going to have a, that's a resolution.
Oh, right, 91, there's a public hearing on that.
Oh.
That's for the budget.
Okay.
For Fire District 3.
Okay, thank you. 9A3.
That's authorizing the council to enact an agreement with the county for a grant award that we were notified of receiving $135,000 from the CDBG program to double our repaving efforts for Casino Drive between West Farms Road and Peskin/Southern Avenue. So this is just formalizing. This goes with 9A4 as well, formalizes the agreement in accordance with the federal and county standards.
Okay. So, let me ask you a silly question. Is there any chance that in past that Wyckoff Mills Road is ever going to get done, or it's still on the back burner and it's going to remain so?
We'll talk about that again at the upcoming CDBG funding later this year.
A waste of time. Right. Okay, so then that's the end of the resolutions. I guess I'll wait until. Yeah, okay. All right. Thank you. I'll see you when it comes time for ordinances. Thank you.
You good?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Kathy McKee?
So just mayor and council, see what you can come up with for the cell towers. There, if I can figure out to recopy and reprint some of the stuff that I know about, I'll give it to you. It's mind-boggling. It's very scary.
Come on, pass my bedtime.
Thank you, you're very kind.
Hi, I'm Kathy McKee, 35 Merrick Road, Farmingdale Post Office. I recently heard about the Shade Tree Commission dismissals. I'm not sure exactly what that's about, but it was pretty upsetting. I was on the Shade Tree Commission for about 27 years. I just retired at the end of 2017, and we're like a month out from Arbor Day, and that's a really important occasion in the township. The Shade Tree Commission plants trees at each of the schools. They give shrubs as prizes for essay and art contests in the school related to Arbor Day, and they give free seedlings to all the third graders. So it's a pretty elaborate program, and I did it myself for many years, and I was always just so happy when it was over. It was very stressful to manage. And when Glenn Cantor took over, he did an excellent job. He had his spreadsheet in the computer, and everything was listed together, and everything just went off so perfectly. And I was just so proud of him for doing a great job, and I guess he's going to be leaving before Arbor Day. I don't know exactly what the details are on that, but the Shade Tree Commission has done a lot of other important things. They've had a lot of tree giveaways in association with a program that the state was sponsoring post the Sandy damage, and there's a lot of work involved with that. I remember one year I was with Paul Saya and his wife, and nobody else showed up, and it was like freezing cold, and we were in that open public works garage and wrapping these seedlings in the cold water. We had to dip the roots in, and oh my gosh, we had verging on frostbite. But, you know, the members that I've heard are going to be dismissed have really been very loyal, hardworking members. We've been a Tree City. We've been recognized for that every year for many years. I think it's over 20 years now. And that takes a lot of work, too. We also put together a new community forestry management plan every 5 years, and I think that was partially responsible for us getting recognition for the green team, because it was one of the requirements. It's just upsetting. If there's anything that I could do to help with the transition, I just think it's going to be very awkward putting new people who don't have experience with it, especially
right before Arbor Day. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Paul Dorado?
Paul Dorado, 27 Firestone Drive. My question is more, as it always is for this side, on the resolution for the West Farms project. Did we check the recent tax payments on that?
Yes, we did.
I showed that they were in arrears about 40,000. Is that
I'll have to ask the tax collector.
okay?
We normally check when we accept things like this, we normally check right before we do it. So
Okay.
it would have been checked within the last probably 2 days.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Lee Schaefer?
Lee Schaefer, 2 Ardmore Road. As a follow-up to the special meeting on the Mackenzie House, I brought you 2 packets tonight, just in case you got done reading the ones that I brought you the last time. This is the application to have the house put on the New Jersey and National Registry of Historic Places. The application's here so you can see what criteria we would need to follow in order to make that happen. And there's also a copy of the case report from Monmouth County included in that. And the other thing is, John Fabiano was here last time, and he mentioned about the Historical Preservation Grant Program. I also brought you the application for that, so that you can see what information we need in order to apply. And then the last thing that I have is I would ask you if you would please consider setting a date for another meeting regarding the Mackenzie House.
I personally would like to do that myself, because I would like to sit with you to find out what are the real, there's one group that's come here to us to talk to us, and there's another group someplace. So I think that we need to find out where both are so that we can then move forward to make a decision.
I think that's right, Mayor. We were recently contacted by by another group asking if we could substitute them in for the existing historical society. So now that we have that in place, I think it is a valid point that we should probably look into doing that and what and how and all of that. So and that's something I'll take a look at the remainder of this week and
Thank you.
report to everybody.
Great, thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Okay, there's no one else on the list, so I'm going to ask, as I always do. Please come up, and again, we have a 5-minute,
Sandra Solly, Birdsall Road, Farmingdale. I want to know what the procedure and policy is concerning the removal of a committee member, especially one who has served faithfully and beneficially. What is the procedure? Do they get a letter telling them they haven't served properly?
what committee member are you talking about?
Talking
Council?
about the shade tree, no.
I believe they received letters, is that correct?
That is correct.
Were they told why?
I believe so.
Did they not perform faithfully?
That has nothing to do with it.
Well, if someone's been a member for 30 years and they just get told to go away, and like Kathy McKee said, Arbor Day's coming up. Are these new people going to get out there in the cold garage and wrap seedlings for all the third graders? That's the question. I've been here for 45 years, and it's very difficult to get committee members to serve, especially faithfully. I mean, maybe they hit the first 2 meetings, and then you don't see them for the 3rd and the 4th. Maybe they come back to the 6th one, and then you don't see them for the rest of the year. But you need people that are interested in the committee work, not
Agreed.
just, and I just want to know, because there was like, years ago, I was on the CAC, and there was supposed to be 18 members.
CAC?
I can't remember what it stood for, they changed it.
Oh, well, I don't know what that means, so.
Penny probably knows.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you please enlighten?
Cultural Arts Committee. Oh,
Citizen Advisory, Cultural Advisory, which one is it?
we're going to go with Citizen.
Citizens, right?
Cultural Arts Committee, we called that the CAC.
Well, yeah, but they changed the name because when I was on, Joe DeBello was the mayor. So anyway, so there was 18 members appointed. So the first meeting or two, they come out. A couple of meetings go by, half of them come out, but we needed 8 for a quorum. So it got to be the summertime, and there's 7 of us sitting out on the step at the preventorium waiting for the 8th member because we're not going inside if we can't do anything. So we're calling people, are you coming? Oh yeah, okay. We waited until like 7:30. Nobody came, we didn't have a quorum. That happened more than once. We're calling people from the step. It was just very aggravating. And then Mobile Home Advisory and another Mobile Home Committee, they couldn't get a quorum either. So they merged the two. They still couldn't get a quorum. So I don't know, and then I think they merged that with the Community Advisory, the group that does the CBG grant thing. You know what I'm talking about, Penny? So anyway, so that went nowhere. So there's like 3 or 4 committees that couldn't perform because they couldn't get a quorum. So that's all I want to say, because if someone wants to serve, they should be allowed to serve until they do something wrong. Like not show up, don't call and say they're sick, they're going on vacation. But if they've served faithfully, then they deserve to be honored by remaining on that committee that they are doing because they love doing it. So that's all I have to say. I didn't hear the procedure for removing a committee person. Is there a reason?
The letter states that it's the change in ordinance. I didn't explain that good, Joe. What else should
What was the change of the ordinance?
The change in the ordinance was to reflect the fact that the appointments that were previously made by Township Council were actually supposed to be made by the mayor, and that as a result of that, certain of the members were going to be replaced. We had a meeting about it previously where that issue came up as to whose appointment it was, and the ordinance was amended to reflect that.
Doesn't the state statute say a mayor or manager?
It does not.
I was told it did.
It doesn't say manager, and we went through all of that too. I forget exactly the language, but it doesn't say manager. And the issue at the time was who made the appointment, and given when the shade tree ordinance was originally passed by the state, it predated the Faulkner Act form of government, and so the interpretation is that it did not mean the township manager. And our ordinance prior to that didn't make it a township manager appointment, it was the township council.
Well, we had administrators. Is that what you're saying? Instead of the word manager, you're saying administrator when they were council committee people?
No, the council is a different entity.
No, I understand that, but have we had a Shade Tree Commission since we had committee people on the dais instead of the Faulkner Act? Was it pre-existing is what I'm asking
I would
you.
have to look to see when our Shade Tree Commission was formed, but it was, I don't think it was it was probably decades ago, but it's certainly, the Faulkner Act form of government was created in 1950. So I'm not entirely sure that our Shade Tree Commission predates that. But the whole point of it is that the original Shade Tree statute reflected the fact that it was a mayoral appointment.
Kathy McKee just said she's done it for 25 years, so already. Kathy McKee, 25. Right. And the Faulkner Act was, because Harvey Morrell was the first mayor under the Faulkner Act. So how long has that been? 90-something? Sounds like we're getting too close to the same line. But anyway, now, if these people have been removed with this letter, and you don't have enough appointees, can these people that have been serving faithfully for many years allowed to come back and put an application in? So that you have a full acting committee?
Absolutely.
So they understand that? All right, thank you.
Okay. Oh, boy. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, did you want to do something before?
No, please, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were waiting.
Yeah. Charles Sanders, 38 East Corsica Court. I'm one of the members of the Shade Tree Commission who were left. I haven't been dismissed, and I understand I'm to continue on. I stand here with a very heavy heart because the people that have been dismissed have been working with me for, I'm starting my 5th year, and become friends. And I know the dedication that they've all put in. Paul, Glenn, Matt McGowan, Janelle Coughlin, who's sitting behind me, and Tom O'Donnell. I think I have them all. And they all should be recognized. I'm not commenting upon what has happened in the last, I guess, month now. But I've thought in the last 2 days since I found out about this that I was going to leave. But I know the work that they put in, and I know the work that's ahead. And although I consider myself the weak link on the board, I'm going to stay around and at least try to focus, and as long as the board and I can contribute to the community and the job that's been started. And Kathy McKee couldn't say it any better than me. And I know the work that she put in, just tireless. And I'll try my best, and I know Rich, who's really more qualified than me, he knows every tree that ever existed on Earth. So he's absolutely crucial to anything going forward, and I pray and hope that the members that will be appointed tonight will have the same kind of dedication, and I trust they will. And I'm willing to work with them as long as I can, and that's all I have to say. But the people who left really should be recognized, and that's what I encourage you to do, as much as you can. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening, Council. Joan Osborne, 28 Bronia Street, Howell. I apologize for not having signed the list, but it was gone from the dais when I got here.
I signed it for you.
Thank you. I'm here to talk about what you, Mayor, talked about a little bit earlier, the Howell Organic Community Garden. The Environmental Commission, in conjunction with the Green Team, is in the process of applying for a grant to get some funding from ANJAC, which is the Association of New Jersey Environmental Councils, to help pay for a permanent fence. One of the things that is a part of that application for a grant is a requirement that there be a letter from the township manager indicating that any cost overruns or unfunded portions beyond the grant and the contribution from the actual garden, they intend to contribute $3,000 of their own money, has to be funded by the township. It's an absolute part of the application. So we were hoping we could get it on the agenda for this meeting because the application for the grant is due on April 15th. I understand you do have another meeting before April 15th, and I would ask that the council consider putting it on the agenda to approve that.
I'm sorry, Joan, would that just to approve the grant application?
To approve a letter to go along with the grant application
That we
indicating
would
that
match.
the township, not necessarily match, I think it's going to be less than what the grant and their own contribution would be. We've seen the bids for the fencing work, and it has to be a letter signed by the manager, delivered at the same date. So I believe the council would have to approve him making that type of commitment at an open public meeting. So I'm here to request that and to suggest, because this Howell Organic Community Garden has always been a partnership with the township. It's on township-owned, dedicated open space. This improvement, if done, is going to always be on Howell's property. So it's fair that they're asking for help from Howell in getting a fence that allows them to continue to contribute to the community in terms of education on how to do sustainable organic gardening, in terms of what they contribute back to the food pantries. And I also understand as open green space that we might be able to use our funding for open space, which I believe we have a surplus, and they're asking for about $3,000. So rather than, just asking people to go out and fundraise on their own, which will take a very long time, they're in dire need to have this fence, and the town would own it at the end of the day.
Lou, is that the case? Can we use those funds?
Mayor, if I may.
I'm sorry.
There was, excuse me, there was a question about whether we can in fact use those funds for a nonprofit that's essentially leasing property from us. There was also, if you recall during the meeting, the issue about the financials that the community garden was supposed to be submitting to the town, and to my knowledge, never has. They were supposed to produce them, and they haven't to date. So
What type of financials? I mean, if I could.
they're
get them
required to
those.
provide a financial report every year.
What does it have to include? Are there specifics in their lease?
What their costs are, their expenses, their income.
Well, my
They generate revenue.
It's a basic P and L. That's all that they're asking
Yeah,
for
but
is an
they
annual
only-
P and L, which I think is fair and reasonable.
Right, they lease plots out and they pay for water. That's it, so it shouldn't be hard to put that together.
Right, so we've asked for that.
Okay.
I guess we haven't,
I have not received anything. I mean, we only met
it's only been
a
a
week
week.
ago.
Well, and if you're posing the question as, trying to benefit a nonprofit, it's a permanent improvement to real property owned by the township. So I wouldn't, necessarily look at it the same way as saying that you're just giving money to a nonprofit. It's something you're going to.
Right, but I would need to research if we can use open space funds for that purpose.
Okay.
Additionally, though, I will say that, we also, there could be hundreds of, if not thousands of nonprofits that can come to us and ask us for support. So I think that we need to be very, strategic in how we move forward with this project. So, I mean, it is township-owned property, and so I think that that's a little bit different than other nonprofits. That being said, I don't know if we could do something maybe with the CDBG grant, possibly, maybe give out.
The
You
timing of that might be prohibitive
For this cycle, yeah, but, I mean, maybe in the future, maybe we could allocate maybe $5,000 or $6,000 for nonprofits in the town that can apply and get, up to maybe $1,000 grant to support their projects. I don't know, it's just a thought that's coming out of my head, just because I said it doesn't mean I mean it, but I'm thinking it.
I appreciate that. Every direction helps, and I just would ask that we put it on the agenda for next week for answers to some of the questions so that we can make a decision on whether we can, in fact, move forward with this grant application. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just for more information, Brian Tannenhouse had emailed me over a week ago, and I did forward that email right over to the manager, and the Green Acre situation for monies was, he started that investigation, so they did jump on it right away.
Okay. Please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I apologize for not signing in. I took my wife out because I had a long meeting last night.
Name and address, please.
11 Inkberry Lane. I was here at the reorganization meeting, and I liked what Tommy, Pam, and John said. We were going to put political differences aside and move on what's best for Howell. I was very upset learning about last night, learning that people that put in so many years with this committee, Shade Tree, were let go. And I don't have a problem with you, Mayor, appointing new people. My problem is we did have some people never showed up, and I understand you need to get rid of these people that don't put the time in. But with the people that I've served with, they've been beyond. They've saved the town many thousands of dollars on grants, and what Glenn has done for Arbor Day the timing couldn't be worse. So I just hope that I could be very bitter and say, I'm not going to do it because I'm one of the last two standing, but I'm putting the town first, and I'm going to stay on, and I'll help whoever comes on. But please, and next time, could you please look into these people, what they've done for this town before making that decision? Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy Novak, 16 Stratton Drive. I don't know if you can say now about the purchase of the property adjacent to Deerwood Park on the open space. Can you say how much that purchase is?
Aren't we still in negotiation on
Yeah,
that?
I would avoid commenting on that, as we don't
Yeah,
have.
we're still in negotiation.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Please.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Herb Seller, 276 Locust Avenue, Howell, New Jersey. I'd like to address the township attorney. Could you please read to us on the shade tree thing where it says the appointment of the mayor may dismiss the decision for the shade tree commission? Would you read it, clearly what it says?
So you're asking, what is the authority of the mayor to
Right,
dismiss
I wanted to know
members?
What is written, what is written in the
I
town-
think what has happened here is that for years, the township ordinance said that it was a township council appointment. That ordinance was since corrected to reflect that it was a mayoral appointment,
Does it
and
say- no,
consistent
do
with,
you have it here? You could read it to us. It's not what
consistent
you're
with
saying.
that, the mayor is making the appointments.
What does it say? Not what you're interpreting, sir. Does it say the mayor may do it or the mayor can do it? What does it say? I want to know.
I'm not going to sit here and review the statute,
Right,
sir.
so if you won't, it's ambiguous to what she wants then. You have to have it clearly. These people here are taxpayers. And a lot of them are against what's going on. They have a right to know, don't you think?
I am telling you that consistent with it being a mayoral appointment, the mayor has the opportunity to appoint the members.
Okay, but only the mayor has the right to make that decision?
That's what the state statute says, that's what our ordinance says.
So why do we have all these other people here working for the town if the mayor's only one? I mean, you have a committee here.
She is the person, with regard to the Shade Tree Commission, who makes appointments to that committee. There are many other boards and commissions in the township where it's a township council appointment. This is being done pursuant to state statute.
I think the people should get a right to have a voters referendum and let them decide, not the mayor. That's what I think. I think actually the ruling you have is ambiguous. It's not right. A lot of people here come in and I've heard them tonight. They don't like the ruling. They have a right to decide what they want, yes or no. Why don't you postpone it for now? Put it on a voters referendum. Let the people decide, not the mayor. They pay the township, they pay the taxes here in the town. They pay your salaries here. Let them vote, not you, Miss Mayor. Nothing negative against you, but I think they have a right to voice their opinion. This may be your opinion, you don't like it. These people here might have a different opinion.
So my right then is not my right.
It's not the thing of right. What about the people's rights? What about the people who put you in office? Maybe a lot of people don't agree with it. Don't they have a right to voice
Maybe a
their
lot of
opinion?
people don't agree with who's currently on the Shade Tree Commission. Did you think about that?
Is there anybody here that's not on the Shade Tree Commission that don't agree with this? Please, raise your hand. We have one. But you know what? That's one more. Maybe there's more. Maybe there's more. Give the people an opportunity. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking
You're
for much.
here speaking and I'm giving you your opportunity.
I'm just one voice of many people who live in this town. I think it should be voted on.
I'm sorry, but someone is actually speaking, so if you would please not speak in the audience, I would appreciate that.
That's okay. Thank you for that.
My pleasure.
I just think that people should have a voice in this. I understand, and nobody's overruling your authority here in town. You were voted for in here. But I think people should have a right to vote on this if they want this, though. And you're here as voted as the mayor. You're the voice of the people. Let the people decide. Let them vote on what they want.
Which people would that be?
The people of Howell Township that pay the taxes. The people that would want maybe this.
So they
If the
voted-
majority of people say they don't want this, fine, go on with it. But if a lot of people do want it, you know what? Go on with
I
it.
believe our council has already told you that it is my appointment.
I don't think it's fair. I think people have a right to voice their opinion here. And I think a lot of people are going to be very disappointed with us. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Good evening, council. John McCabe, 26 Taunton Drive. Excuse me. I was just listening to the gentleman before, and I get that he's upset about the Shade Tree Commission having different people dismissed that he may be in favor of, but it is a mayoral appointment, and that's like from someone else who didn't like a planning board member not be appointed. Maybe we'll put that on a referendum. How about a zoning board member, because we don't like it? Maybe we'll make that a referendum. And before you know it, we don't need a council, because we'll just do it by all referendum. So I just think we need to calm down, follow the state statutes, follow the governing body, and if you're still upset come election time, make your voice heard then. Thank you.
Is there anybody else? I will close this portion of the meeting.
Mayor, I'm sorry, I did want to address the shade tree issue. Would you like me to hold off until we get to that portion of the?
That's up to you.
Okay. I'll be forthright. My husband was one of the people that was on the shade tree who was dismissed. The letter, I thought, it was direct, well, no, I don't think it. The letter was the direction of the mayor, and it came from the clerk's office. Did not state really why they were being dismissed. However, I think this is an important opportunity. The mayor does make the appointments, and I think that she's heard the commitment of the people that have been on Shade Tree for, in some cases, decades. So she actually could just reappoint everyone that was on, number one, and they could remain. Secondly, an interesting thought is also that every member that's on here has been voted on and approved to be on this by a full council, including a mayor. So some of these people have actually, in that respect, have been appointed by a mayor, just a previous one. So it's interesting that as people talk, I think of the other options, but everyone that's been removed could actually be put right back on. So when the appointments come up, we'll see which way the mayor goes. And that's my commentary.
Okay. So I believe we need to do 9A1 separately, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so 9A1, establish the amount of the 2019 budget Fire District Number 3 pursuant to the NJSA 40A:14-78.5 et SEQ and certifying the amount to be raised by taxation in support thereof.
Mayor, if I may give you some background information on this. As you're aware, the Howell Fire District Number 3, their budget failed to be passed by the voters recently. To give some background information, I'm going to provide some data on their 2018 budget and where they got to in 2019. 2018, their total appropriations were $1,951,181, with an amount to be raised by taxation of $1,887,295, which was a tax rate of 0.086 cents per $100 valuation. Moving forward, they introduced a budget for 2019, total appropriations of $1,957,503, with a change of $6,322. The amount to be raised by taxation was $1,956,303, which was an increase of $69,008, which led to a tax rate of 0.089 cents, or an increase of 0.003 cents. February 16th was the election day. The vote failed by 64 no votes and 58 yes votes, so it was a very narrow margin. Immediately following, as the budget fails, it gets sent to the Township Council to review. The direction of the governing body, March 1st, myself, our CFO Lou Palazzo, met with the District 3 Fire Administrator along with 2 of their commissioners to discuss the budget. Together we, to be quite forthright, they were very agreeable and actually suggested areas where we could probably tighten things up a little bit. So I do have to commend them that they did a good job of, working on this their own and coming to us with suggestions. As a result of that meeting, the following reductions were suggested. Donation to First Aid Squad, $5,000. Training budget reduction of $20,000. Radio system reduction of $20,000. Hazardous materials reduction of $10,000. And building improvements reducing $25,000 for a total of $80,000. Those recommendations were forwarded to the entire governing body to review. If you were to approve these recommended changes, their approved budget would result in the following: total appropriations of $1,877,503, which would be a reduction of $73,678 from their approved 2018 budget. The amount to be raised by taxation would be $1,876,303, which is a change of reducing $992 from their 2018 approved budget. And the final tax rate would be 0.085 cents. It's a reduction of 0.001 cent. I did communicate with all 5 fire commissioners and received emails that they were in agreement with these changes, as well as it was represented in the meeting that these changes would not have a negative impact on fire service throughout the area. So I would submit that to the governing body for approval. And
I just have just a couple questions. What are the capital improvements?
their capital appropriations include a command vehicle for $70,000, a town tower upgrade for $25,000, turnout gear for $15,000, radio and security system $60,000, and building improvements of $100,000. That was the introduced amounts, so some of those have been reduced. During our meeting, it was discussed, a lot of these are ongoing projects that they've committed funds towards, or things like turnout gear reach a life expectancy, so they need to reinvest a certain amount every year.
Does anybody have any questions?
Actually, I was just wondering, Mr. Manager, has the membership also been advised of this, and they understand what's the negotiation process, what's been negotiated?
I believe the fire commissioners, during our meeting, they represented that they spoke with the chief officers of the company, so I would hope that they would have communicated with their membership.
Well, sounds like they have. That's good to hear. Thank you.
Open up.
So you would have to open it up for a public hearing for comment, and then it's up to the governing body whether to approve these changes or not.
At this point, I would like to open the meeting to discuss the fire department budget.
Sandra Solly, Birdsall Road, Farmingdale. I have a couple of points. Southern Firehouse has a liquor license and they have a party room. And that's income which they don't have to account for. So I'm saying, that's a lot of money. My neighbor's son got married there like 20 years ago, and I think it was $1,000 to rent the room and a $250 deposit to go back and clean it, or they were going to charge. So I'm just saying, other firehouses do not have a liquor license and they don't have a party room. So they're at an advantage. And I really feel that some of that money should go to a new vehicle, a new room, new turnout gear, because it's nuts. I'm sorry. And several years ago, Mr. Kaufman, who owns the farmer's market over on Yellowbrook Squonkam Road, he wanted an equalization of the fire tax. Now, I'm in District 1. When every other firehouse, people are paying $200 and something. I'm paying $647.
I'm with you.
Because, right, District 1, okay. But doesn't it bother you? You may pay more because your property's assessed more. But my neighbor has 2 houses, so he's paying $1,100 because he has 2 properties on Belmar Boulevard. So at the time, the attorney said, oh, well, it was created by ordinance. Well, it can be dismissed by ordinance, and there should be an equalization.
What was created by ordinance?
Fire districts.
Okay.
So there should be an equalization of the fire districts. I mean, almost $2 million, and I think even South Squonkam, which is a smaller firehouse, they used to have a party room, but they lost it because it was upstairs and they couldn't get an elevator, so they couldn't use it. So there goes their fundraising. But anyway, there needs to be an equalization of the fire districts so that it's fair for everybody, and it should be an equal amount of. I would gladly pay $280, but $600? I mean, for the last 15, 20 years, I've been paying 2/3 more than any other fire district. I mean, anybody in District 1, not just me. But I just don't think it's right. So if you could possibly look into that, merge them all, general funds, break it 1/5, 1/5 for everybody, and make it fair. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, just to confirm, the fire company does not have a liquor license. Our clerk has confirmed that.
Thank you.
They don't? They got a bar?
Tina Smilek, 33 Charles Street. I just want to say our fire departments deserve what they get. I want to make sure none of these cuts will take away any kind of safety equipment for these guys. They volunteer their time for us. We need to support them on what they need. So can you just assure me that none of these cuts will take away from any of their safety?
I'd be giving you secondhand information, but that's what the fire commissioners assured me.
Okay. I just
And
want to make sure
just
that's
to clarify, a
important.
large part of their budget is supporting paid services, so they're not all volunteer.
Yes, I understand, but we do have a lot of volunteer, and they
Yes.
do deserve to be safe, and they do deserve to be taken care of because they take care of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Are we ready to move?
Going to close public?
Can I close the please come up.
How you doing, Mayor, Council? My name is Don Franklin, 11 Beacon Drive. This is Lou Memolo Sr. We're representatives of the Board of Fire Commissioners, District 3. Can you guys hear me? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay. I'd just like to clarify some things first that were said. As the manager said, there is no liquor license at the fire department. That money is actually raised for the fire company, which is what they use to donate money, to do things. I'm sure people hear the Santa Claus rides going around and stuff like that. That's what that money's for. What you guys are voting on today is for the operational of the firehouse, which is trucks, maintenance, gear, everything that goes into that effect. I don't know if you actually looked at the budget, but there are parts of our budget that cannot be cut. The insurance, the hydrant rentals. I'm not sure if people are aware, we pay an extremely large fee to the American Water Company to rent hydrants. I mean, if it was up to me, I'd rather have a meter on the truck, but we actually pay over $100,000, just our district alone. When it comes to different districts, that person that came up here and spoke before, she's a member of District 1, I believe. They have their own representatives. They have commissioners' meetings, people can go, they're open to the public, just like ours. We have people from the public that come to ours, and they tell us that they have a problem with something. That has absolutely zero to do with our fire district. Our fire district, the budget might be high, but like, I don't know if the manager, I believe he said it, we have career guys. We decided to have career guys because we have a fire department where a lot of people work Monday through Friday. That career department is there, so the call gets answered. That career, the 4 guys working that shift also handle calls all over town for the other districts. So there's a lot into our budget that people don't understand, and I think they see the high number, and they don't really realize what goes into it. It's a lot of money for insurance. The one thing on the capital projects, there was a thing I just want to clarify for you, the radio tower upgrade. What that is the radios in this town are horrible, all right? For the police department, for the fire department, for the first aid, the system is 80 years old, it's expired, it's all this. So what the commissioners are trying to do is put some money towards that to try and upgrade that. That would actually benefit the police department as well, because it would help the radio system. That's what the upgrade is. All the districts did that. The building improvements, our firehouse is, how old? 70 years? 75 years old? 75 years old. The building improvement for the $100,000 was to put a floor down, because the floor is in bad shape. I mean, it's 100 years old, or 75 years old, whatever it is. The turnout gear, there's nothing we can do about it. The turnout gear costs a certain amount of money. There's nothing, we don't set the price. You can't go cheap on it. We don't get the most expensive kind, but it's something I don't want to have these guys go cheap on. The command vehicle, same thing. The command vehicle, we have a rotation of trucks, just like I'm sure the township does for the police department and the buildings and everything like that. If you mess up that rotation 1 year, that affects the rotation 5 years down the road. So that's why the command vehicle's in there. Those command vehicles are needed because when we're all volunteers and the chiefs have those vehicles, they get to the scene first and they can set the whole scene up for the incoming trucks. It's very important. It's an important aspect. I don't know if people understand that. If they look at career departments in New York City or Jersey City or any of those other places around here, they all have chiefs who all have those trucks who get there and do size-ups. It's actually very important. Is there any other questions? I just wanted to come up and give you guys the opportunity to ask me, because I know it's a very confusing aspect between the fire company and the fire district, how there's a separation. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to ask them.
I just want to bring something up, Mr. Chairman. A lot of the districts and the residents in this town do not realize that in this area, in the Southern District, we have most of the preschools, the grade schools, we have the senior citizen building. Under the direction of the chief this year, we've expanded our hazardous material team, which services the whole town. Our career staff services the whole town when they're called for mutual aid, and when they're out, there's a group of volunteers that come in to support that. So the budget that goes, as you can see, the budget went through, the numbers that we placed into it was support going forward. And it's very important that a lot of the residents just think, they just think that it's a happy place there, but they don't understand that what it takes to run the system. If we didn't have the career staff, our budget would be probably cut in half. And that's not going to happen, because I was a commissioner when we created that back in '84, '85, and I would not like to see that disappear. These guys do a tremendous job. They've made life-saving they've been on the job, and they've had life-saving experiences with the people in the residences down using the Narcan. They've gotten there first before the first aid, the EMS police, or the police vehicles. So it's a very good, excellent running operation. And, it's unfortunate the way this went down, but the voters voted, but there's a mail-in vote that just almost killed everything. And that's how it's going to go on. Governor Murphy signed the paperwork to send out absentee mails out, their vouchers, so then they send them in. So, you get 780 people sending in absentee ballots, and they don't even read the paper to see what it is, what the budget is or anything, what the expenses are.
Well, I don't know if we could say that. I don't know what somebody looked at their house. You know what I'm saying? I can't say that anybody who sent in an absentee ballot didn't look at the budget. I can't say that. That wouldn't be a fair statement.
Well, I'm clerk of the board, and I'm there to certify the budget. And when the budget was there, the vote tally when it came in was 51 to 18, And at 9:15, when I got the call from the county, it was 64 to 58.
Well, that just means that people took their opportunity to vote. I mean, I can't
I'm not
complain
saying
about
they're
somebody
wrong about it.
voting.
No, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just showing you just
That's
how
their
it went
opportunity.
down.
I would definitely express to you that I encourage people to come vote for the budget. I encourage questions. I mean, I'm lucky enough to be the chairman of the board. Our meetings, that place can be packed. We're very transparent. There's nothing to hide when it comes to the commissioners. Everybody in the district can vote. Doesn't matter. I mean, that's their right. I vote. I'm sure everyone up here votes. So I would never encourage we never try and discourage anyone to vote. I can tell you that much. I can guarantee you.
Yeah, I didn't want that to be thought out there. That you.
So, does anybody have any questions? I know there's a lot of people here that probably have things to do.
No, but I can assure you that when I did speak to the manager on a couple of issues, he handled it very well. He's very knowledgeable. The meeting that you had with him brought back a lot of information to us, and it was very thorough.
Not to interrupt you, but I would definitely commend, I know he gets a lot of heat. In this situation, the manager was very helpful because he has knowledge of the situation.
Right.
So it was a good discussion. It wasn't like a tyrant or anything like that, or this has to be cut, the council wants this cut. And the council worked very well with us too. I mean, listen.
And he was
do we
explaining
wanna
the
see anything
importance.
cut? Obviously, no, but, we understand that there's a process here and we have to work together and,
Well, you were in good hands, just in case you didn't know that. You were in very good hands.
we work well,
We
so.
greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
And we thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No questions?
No.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you very
Thank you.
much.
We've got to close public.
Is there anybody else that wants to come up to talk about this topic? So I'm closing this portion of the public meeting.
I would be happy to make a motion to approve and establish the amount of the 2019 budget of Fire District Number 3 pursuant to the statutes that's been spoken of tonight through the manager and the fire commissioners that have just testified.
I'll second that.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Okay, is there anything that needs to be?
Take 5 minutes.
At this point, I'd like to just close the meeting for just 5 minutes, if nobody minds, for a quick bathroom break. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're going to go on the consent agenda items. I think the request was to take out 9A10 to vote separate.
Correct.
Sorry. Does anybody want to make a motion?
All right, motion to move 9A2 through 9A9, excluding 9A10, correct. And motion 9B1 as well. No, motion to move all of them excluding 9A10, correct.
May I have a second?
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. So may I have a motion for 9A10?
I'll make a motion to move 9A10.
Second?
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Abstain.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
No. Motions 9B1 and 9B2? Yes, absolutely.
9A1, 9B1.
Would somebody like to? Make the motion.
Make the motion, move 9B1?
A second.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Abstain?
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. 9B2. Actually, after listening to some of the members of the Shade Tree Commission, I would like to meet with them and have a discussion. I don't know, I would like to talk to you. I'd like to get your input. Not something that was offered to me in the past, so I would enjoy it, actually. So if we could set something up after this meeting, we could maybe set up a meeting, or I could give you my information, and then we could kind of figure that out
Isn't
within a
there a
week or
shade
two.
tree scheduled for tomorrow evening? Shade tree meeting already
We
presently
could
on the
meet
agenda?
early tomorrow morning if you like. I mean,
Well, it's already on the agenda, that's why I thought perhaps that the people had already, taken that time of their calendar and allotted it for the meeting already.
I don't know that answer.
Well, I would, every
Right?
time I've been to
Don't know
shade
that
tree, they're all
answer.
there.
I'm sorry? Thank you very much. I appreciate that. No, absolutely. Thank you. Could we just finish the meeting and then,
He's eager to get to work.
or I'll write my number down. Actually, Eric, would you?
We have to.
Perfect.
Mayor, I have a couple of comments on this. First of all, Shade Tree members, thank you all. Any volunteer in Howell Township, thank you very much for doing what you do. I've received emails, and the fact that I've received such heartfelt emails from people who are on a purely volunteer board for decades just shows how great Howell is. Separate and apart from that, okay? There's a legal question here. And the legal question is simply, what does the ordinance mean, right? Different lawyers, different opinions, okay? Our attorney seems to believe that the ordinance is a mayoral appointment. And the way you read it, it's very gray, and it's confusing, confuses me. But assuming that's true, and I was looking at this, it's true, assuming it's true, it's fine, just discussion. These prior members were essentially appointed by a prior mayor, is that correct? And specifically what I mean is, it was ratified essentially by a prior mayor, and their terms are still in existence, is it not? So their terms aren't
I
up.
think you're cobbling.
Listen, I do this for a living, all right? So
Yeah, well.
I dissect words.
So do we all.
And when you look at the ordinance, it could be argued, okay, that that their terms are not up yet, and they were in fact appointed, ratified, I guess constructive appointment, Joe, by a mayor. Now, I would ask to table this, Mayor, just to do some legal research.
I
with Joe.
believe I just did.
That's what the mayor did. She tabled it.
You tabled it. I didn't hear
Maybe
those words.
you should pay attention.
I didn't hear the
She
words
didn't say
table, Mayor.
table.
Thank you.
The
No, I
word
wasn't.
tabled wasn't used.
So,
Thank you.
if I understand correctly, then, we're not taking action on it tonight, and so then in the
Well,
meantime,
if I could just cut you off for a second, the only reason we're not taking action on it tonight, in my humble opinion, is because I want to meet with the two members that have come here tonight to talk to me. Otherwise, I would make those appointments
Okay,
tonight, but I'm holding off.
that's fair, and I'm just trying to see if
I
I
have emails
understand
from
what
the others.
Councilman Russo is asking. So, the position is that, we've changed our ordinance in a way that I think is in line with state statute. And by virtue of them having been voted on by a mayor previously, does that vote by the mayor ratify what might have otherwise been an improper action by the council?
I think it could be argued that if this were to go to trial, all right, if a judge were to see this, hypothetically, I'm not saying, a judge looking at this would say, okay, well, it could be, it's not unreasonable to read the ordinance as a prior mayor's appointment, and it's still valid. So that's all I'm saying.
I will look into it. I will say, ratification is obviously, at least for the lawyers, it can be a game changer. I'm not so sure ultimately that that's how it is, but it's at least an important enough issue. While I have time, I'll take a look at it, and I'll be able to report back to council on it.
Is 8 a.m. good enough, or you need more time than that?
No, I'll be here tonight.
I think regardless of what happens, I'm glad, thank you very much for talking to the Shade Tree. I think that's great. In addition to the discussions, I think the legal aspect of this should be fleshed out fully to avoid any problems. I don't want to see a problem here, a legal problem down the road.
I hear you, and since the ordinance prior was by council, it did not specifically say mayor. This specifically says mayor. Actually, when it's a council vote, it's a 1 in 5 vote. But when it's a mayoral appointment, it's not. It's just the appointment, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean,
in my humble opinion.
I mean, yeah, again, well, the words of this ordinance were confusing. They used interchangeably the word mayor, township official, I think it was township official, and I think it was manager at one point, interchangeably. That's what created the confusion here. And I want to have an airtight ordinance to avoid any future problems like this down the road. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I think that's an important enough issue. I'm happy to take a look at it while we have time, and, I will report back to council as quickly as I possibly can on it.
Great,
Mayor,
thank you.
can I just ask a question, and thank you for tabling it and willing to speak. You mentioned the two that came. Are you willing to meet with all of the ones that got letters to dismiss, if they'd like to meet with you? And okay, I just wanted for the record and to be
There
clear.
were 2 gentlemen here.
No,
I
right.
mentioned the 2 gentlemen. in
Yeah,
front.
but there were others, so some couldn't be here, some sent emails, so, I
There's
mean,
someone
I just
here
wanted
that
to make
didn't
sure it
speak.
gets open to everyone and not just the 2, and thank you for doing that.
No question.
I just would like to encourage the meeting to be as quickly as possible, because with all of the things coming up with the Tree Federation and the children's program at school, please, quick.
I just said
I
at
know,
the end
but-
of the
but
meeting, I
meeting-
can't go any
but-
quicker than that.
But meeting with them, well, she's not going to meet just them. She has to have a meeting with all
Well,
of them.
we'll set a meeting, and whoever can attend, attends, and whoever cannot, cannot.
Okay, faster than fast.
I'm not doing it this evening.
The others can't come.
No, I tabled it. I don't believe so. Okay. Are we ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay, so we did public hearing on ordinances. Ordinance number 0-19-11, 10.1. Amend Chapter 2, Alliance to Prevent Alcoholism and Drug Abuse. Ordinance number 0-19-11, introduced and passed on first reading on 2/19/19 and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 2/22/19 is submitted and is noted that the copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies are available to the general public upon request.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 7, Section 47, entitled Alliance to Prevent Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell.
I would like to open this portion of the meeting if someone would like to come up and discuss. Seeing none, I will close the public portion of the meeting. May I have a motion, please?
Yes, a motion that ordinance number 01911 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice shall be its passage and adoption will be published in the March 22nd, 2019 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
I'll second it.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Ordinance 0-19-13, 10.2, 2019 salary ordinance, non-union employees. Ordinance number 0-19-15, introduced and passed on first reading on 3/5/19 and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of the ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 3/8/19 is submitted as noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and that copies were available to the general public upon request.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance setting forth and amending and supplementing the salary range schedule for the salaries of certain officers and employees of the Township of Howell.
I would like to open this portion.
Sandra Solly, Birdsall Road, Farmingdale. I'm looking at this list of jobs, and I want to know, How many jobs on here are not currently filled by anyone?
Didn't we discuss that?
Yeah, from the wrong list. So this has been revised. Like the administrative assistant to the manager, is that currently filled? Confidential assistant to the manager?
Brian?
Yeah, I'm looking. The administrative assistant to the manager is not filled. The confidential assistant is.
So theoretically, down the road, you might need to hire a confidential assistant, is that the one?
As we went over this at the last meeting, that was filled in the past by 2 different people. It's not currently filled, nor is it budgeted for.
All right. No, I'm just saying, because there was a council person that did not like the large span from minimum to maximum, and there's a couple of them on here that are really large, like chief financial officer, 75,000 to 119,000. I mean, to me, that's a lot. And I don't know how far you have to go into the range to decide what kind of an increase you're going to give a person, but I would like to see a little more, maybe $10,000, $15,000 between maximum and minimum, because you'll do this again in a couple of years. It's not going to be every year for the next 10 years that you're going to be using the same schedule. So, and then the one that's not really funny is this one, 0. Tax search official, $0, $2,500. Hello? Is somebody doing that now?
Yes.
And they're not getting paid, right? Or
No,
they
they
are? Are they being paid at all?
Yes.
All right, so,
Well, wouldn't you expect if somebody had a job, they'd be getting paid?
well, it says.
I'm just asking the silly question.
No, it says minimum range. I don't know how long this person has been doing this job and how often they have to search. That's all I'm asking. And then, and we still don't know what an AB operator is, right?
That's for a fuel station.
A what?
There's a new requirement for the DEP that we have to have what's called an AB operator for our fuel station at DPW. So it is a DPW employee that receives an additional stipend that had to go out and get licensed and be able to report back to the DEP on what the requirements are for the new fuel station regs.
What I want to know is, what does AB stand for?
That I don't know. It's one of the acronyms from the DEP.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to laugh out loud.
Weeks, you figured somebody would have figured it out. But I just would like to see a little more of a leaner range between minimum and maximum, and a little more transparency. Please don't put a job on here that doesn't currently have somebody in it. And then you're getting ready to do a new budget, and we still have empty places downstairs that haven't been rented. So we're missing income. So we can't be adding new jobs. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
So I just have to say something about jobs or new jobs, right? So, especially in this situation, we have no choice but to have that position, right? That, whatever that AB position is. So if we have no choice, we have to have it on there. If it's a statute, we have to do it. No?
I'm not questioning the job. Just, what does it mean?
Okay.
Mayor, just for
Forgive me then.
clarification,
Oh, we found it.
it's called a Class A/B operator. It's related to underground storage tanks, and that's literally the class that this person is licensed to, a Class A operator, a Class B operator.
Is that helpful?
Yeah, well, now I want to ask another question.
Sorry, shouldn't have answered.
He said,
Jim, you owe me dinner.
I think I heard him say underground. Did you say underground?
That is correct.
Does that mean a gas tank or oil tanks?
Could be either. Anything that's an underground storage tank that meets the requirements.
Do we currently have many underground oil tanks?
No.
2?
You said many. I said no. We have diesel and gasoline tanks at the Public Works yard. I believe the majority, or if not all, underground storage tanks around the township had been removed over 20 years ago.
Well, not 20 years ago, because an employee was being
Okay.
paid a stipend of $8,000 to inspect the underground tanks. So my thing was, well, every time they took one out, did they reduce the stipend? So I was told by someone that once someone gets a stipend, it rolls over into their salary and they don't take it away. So now, since he said underground, I want to know. And I know a lot of the tanks, like over by the old tax office, that one was taken out. And maybe the old courthouse, I don't know. But actually, how many oil tanks do we currently have any building that's being heated by fuel oil? Other than this AB operator.
I don't believe we do. I think they've all been converted to natural gas as recently as 3 years ago. The last one was the Department of Public Works facility, where we've replaced all of the HVAC units to now run on more efficient natural gas. The tanks for those were removed. There were above-ground storage tanks at the police department, the DPW yard, the old administration building, the EPC building. Those, some of them have been removed. Others I am meeting with consultants on tomorrow to determine how to remove the rest of them, now that we've converted to natural gas.
So no building gets heated with oil?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Except Mackenzie, which is propane.
Which is not heated because we haven't paid the bill.
It should be. Oh, that's a question I want to ask while I'm here.
Sorry.
Specific to this.
This is just on this ordinance.
No, well, no, he's talking about,
Nope, we're right now have public comment on this ordinance. No?
oil tank out.
Strictly staying with this ordinance, comments on this ordinance only.
Thank you.
What does that mean, oil tanks or AB operators?
Means come back at the next portion of public speaking.
I can't, it won't tie in. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that ordinance number 0-19-13 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 3/22/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
I'll second that.
Roll call, Mrs. Bonanovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Ordinance 0-19-14, 10.3, 2019 Salary Ordinance Township Manager. Ordinance number 0-19-14, introduced and passed on first reading on 3/5/19 and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 3/8/19 is submitted, and it is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, and that copies are available to the general public upon request.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance setting forth and amending and supplementing the salary range schedule for the salaries of certain officers and employees of the Township of Howell.
I would open this portion of the meeting if someone would like to come up.
Tina Smilek, 33 Charles Street. Why doesn't the manager's contract get put into an ordinance and open for public comment?
Can you say that again?
Sorry, Tina, what was that?
Good question.
I want to know why the manager's contract isn't put into an ordinance and opened up to public comment. Why is it a closed, I mean, you have resolution, you're only talking about salary here, you're not talking about his contract. It was never put in an ordinance and approved through an ordinance with an open public.
Joe, can you comment on that?
Yeah, there was a resolution passed in November of 2018 that authorized the execution of the contract, and the contract probably should have been an exhibit to that if it wasn't.
It was not. Actually, the contract was actually signed and dated before the resolution was even approved.
Well, the contract, I believe, is signed and dated the 20th of November.
Yes, and it was December 11th that the resolution was approved. So the contract was signed before the resolution was even approved.
And well, that brings us to the ratification issue that Mr. Russo raised. It's an action subsequent to it can ratify an action prior.
So, you know, how this is, so when the contract was negotiated, was was it just counsel in this involved, or was there a counsel for the council? Was there any lawyers or?
You were in the meeting, Joe?
I was in one or two of the meetings, so yes.
I mean, these laws are very hard. I mean, Tommy brought up, how difficult it is just to interpret the other law. These laws are no easier, and you are all new up there. I mean, how can you negotiate a contract not knowing the laws? And I respect Joe, and I think he's great, but Joe works for Brian. Joe, he hires, Brian hires him. I think you need outside representation just to do this part where there's no conflict of interest with the council. And not that I think Joe would do anything wrong, because he always answers my emails. I think he's great. I think he's knowledgeable. I appreciate him there, and I think he deserves the position. But, we're to the point where, and then no public comment. The contract was never posted. Nobody could comment on it. Why not? Well, most of the TWUs,
None of those are done in public. They're negotiated in private, they're presented to the council, and they pass a resolution.
And then they're ratified in public. And the public can talk on the contract at the ratification.
Yes,
Okay, so why isn't this ratified through an ordinance?
there was a resolution passed. We don't use an ordinance to pass a contract.
There's no public comment for it.
You can comment on resolutions, we do it at every meeting.
Yeah, but we don't know what we're commenting on if you don't give us the contract that you're working on. You don't have all the information in there. Nobody saw the contract, except for council. Who saw that contract? Why can't the public question a contract, whether it's you, whether it's anybody else? It should be public, it should be put in public for the public to make a comment on and to ask questions about. We've never had that opportunity as a public to ask questions on this contract.
If I might, isn't everything available to the public for their perusal that's on our agenda?
This contract was never on your agenda,
I'm just
just a
asking a
resolution.
question. So if, last year, if someone had said, I'd like to see the contract, could they have seen it if it was a resolution? I mean, the information, there's like backup information.
It's, of course, subject to Oprah. I mean, it's something that should be readily available to the public.
But public is not allowed to get...
Typically, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but a draft contract wouldn't be, because it's not a final product, and so, of course, you
'Cause
may
that's still
have
part of
subsequent
negotiation,
amendments, or maybe attorney-client
So
issues.
according to the
reflected in
resolution,
that,
it was
so.
not done yet. So how would we know it was completed if the resolution is only saying you're approved to negotiate it? It doesn't say that the contract is negotiated and that that the contract is negotiated and it's available and this is what we're voting on. It says it's going to be initiated. Nobody had an option to get this.
Right, so typically, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off again, but if you look at, so for example, the ordinance, the add-on ordinance that authorizes the purchase of land, it's going to authorize everybody here behind the dais, more or less, to go ahead and negotiate. Even though the final, the second reading hasn't happened and the ordinance hasn't formally passed, we'll still be authorized after the first reading to move forward
Okay,
with
and on the
that.
second reading, as a citizen, am I allowed to come up and ask questions about it?
100%. You can ask questions. Yeah.
Questions about the contract?
What are your questions?
Oh, I have a ton. Do you want to sit here and go over?
Oh, well, I've gone over some of them with you.
You've gone over
and-
some of them, and I don't agree with you. NJSA
And I have to tell you,
5214.
I will cut you off on that one, and I'm sorry, but I obviously, as the township attorney, cannot get too deeply into the legal analysis for attorney-client reasons. I looked at the issues. We had outside counsel look at the issue. We believe that the contract is perfectly fine under the law and defensible, and I can tell you that. Other than that, I mean, I can't get too deep into the whole analysis of the
But see,
the state
that's not
laws
fair
and that.
to us, the taxpayers. You're spending our money, and we don't have an option to come up here and talk to you about it. We don't have the option to come up here and question you.
Well, you don't have
Like,
an option to talk to me about it,
Not
because
to you,
there's
that's why I'm
some-
saying we
sometimes
don't
I
have a
to be quiet.
I mean, these people, 3 of them weren't even part of the contract negotiations. They're just stuck here having to make a decision based on, something at previous council, which also, according to our municipal charter law, 40-69A-208, appointments between election time and taking office are not supposed to be done.
So that's an interesting question, and I think the Faulkner Act that we follow ends at section 98.
No, it says, I actually have it. It states, shall pertain to the charter and hold on. Let me find it.
Yeah,
Pertain to the charter as if provisions. I would have to find it again.
That's
but
fine, and
It
I'll tell
says
you what-
all
what-
under the,
why don't we do this with that one? If you find it and email me, you know I have a relatively quick turnaround time, so I'm happy to look into it.
I think until all legal aspects of this contract and until the public is allowed, it should be tabled until the public is allowed to question it.
Well, the ordinance and the contract are separate
Joe, I'm
things at
sorry.
this point.
Tina, obviously, I wasn't there, John wasn't there, Pam wasn't there, but the mayor and Evelyn were there.
Yes.
Would you guys be willing to answer questions about the contract? I mean, you're,
As
yeah,
long as
I mean, Mayor, you signed the contract.
I can legally do so, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
I mean, was the
Absolutely.
contract negotiated? Was anything turned down when what was asked for?
I would, absolutely, that's exactly the kind of thing that I would,
Because this is,
you
well,
can't
that
get
was
into.
done in executive session. If those minutes have been released, I'm good.
They probably have not yet been because we
See, here we
have
go.
the,
You're
we
not
haven't
giving the
passed the
public the
salary ordinance
opportunity
yet.
to.
I'm trying to work within the law, Tina. I'm sure you can appreciate that.
Too. I don't see why residents, you're spending our money. A lot of people are mad. $50,000 is a lot of money. Now, if you said you were going to stage that in over 5 years, $10,000 a year, I think it's more acceptable. I could see you wanting to bring the manager to a salary that's somewhat towards another salary, but all in one shot. That's just, it's a shock for residents. I mean, how do you do that? On top of that, we're $10,000 to give for him to get in a policy somewhere else when we offer a policy for medical benefits. $10,000. How many other employees get $10,000 for not taking their medical benefits?
I don't think anyone, but we paid over $30,000 for them to have medical.
But the law states that you're only allowed to have, you're supposed to cap it at $5,000.
We have looked into that issue. We believe it's permissible under the law, and
And I respectfully disagree.
Okay,
And I just want to put it on record.
that's fine. Thank you.
Tina, I also would like to put on record, again, we're talking about the ordinance, not the salary, and we were not here for the negotiations, but no one had a problem when we hired Brian at $130,000, when you've seen the memos, right? You've seen the spreadsheet of all the outlying other township managers.
No, I haven't seen that
Okay, well,
spreadsheet.
I will be happy to give you a copy. I was actually going to send it to you to post it, because to be comparable to other townships, Brian is and was way below. Nobody complained about it then.
Okay.
So now, excuse me, let me finish, please, thank you. So to bring Brian up to par, which, by the way, when I give you the spreadsheet, I would appreciate if you do post it on your website, because he's only bringing them up to $185,000. And if you look at all the other comparable townships, you will see he's still below what other township managers make.
Okay, and
So I'll
what
be
is
happy
the
to give this to
experience
you.
of those other township managers? Are they in there for 12 years? Have they, over 12 years, have they gotten to that? Or has it been just, are they here for 1 year?
It probably is it probably varies.
What do you mean
But how-
probably? It's not probably.
Most likely it varies. Most likely there are so many
But there's a difference
variables.
to an experience. So you give an experience somebody something more. If you're experienced for 5 years and a new person comes in and you hire a new person, do you want them hired at the same salary as you do?
But Tina, he's way below, whether he has experience or not.
Jeff Mayfield
Again-
was making $115,000.
Mhm.
117,300 to be
117,
exact.
and he got an educational reimbursement as well.
Okay.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. You know what? You're educating, you're working, you're paying for your employees to benefit, and it's going to benefit the town in the long run.
Okay, but I guess my question is, why are we discussing a contract that was negotiated last year when we're working on an ordinance? We're trying.
Comment on that contract. Where is the public comment on the contract? I would have been more than happy to show up if you would have put that online and you would have allowed public comment. I would have been here. I would have asked my questions then. You did not allow public comment for the salary, for the contract. I'm sorry.
Okay, but again,
When am I supposed to ask about questions about the salary and all that?
you're asking them now. But again,
It's not about that.
because we're here talking about a salary ordinance, not Brian's contract.
Okay, when can I talk about Brian's contract?
Brian, when can you talk about your contract?
I guess they just ratified.
My suggestion would be during the open discussion, the hearing of citizens in the beginning of.
Thank you, Brian.
Okay, then we'll talk about it then. And you guys are all going to vote. And let me just tell you, I think it's a slap in the face to every employee working here that fought for a 1% raise, a 1.25% raise, and a 2% raise. They all had to go from direct 10 to direct 15, and you cut all of them down, and here it is. It really looks bad on every one of you up there that is going to vote yes to this. I'm sorry, but it is. I would table this, and I would relook at this, and I would see what you can do, because you know what, every employee in this, you want to talk about comparable raises? Rick got a 3% raise over there. Are you going to give your employees a 3% raise?
What about our police officers?
I would do that 100%.
But don't they get a
They
nice?
got a 1.25.
How much is that? I'm sure you know the answer to that.
It's all different considering what class they're in.
Exactly my point,
But a
Tina.
1.25 compared to a 37% raise?
But at their top salary, what is that?
Not much more than what our manager is making.
Which again is below the line of anybody in.
They start out at $40,000. The first ones start out at $40,000. Then it goes up once they're here 10, 15 years, and then yes, they make a very good salary.
Well, I'm sure the mayor or deputy mayor would like to let you know why they came to that number when they hired Brian at 130 and agreed to give him. No, I'm just asking, because again, I was not here, but I'm sure they have a very valid reason why they hired him at the $130,000, give or take, and why they decided to bring him up to 160 after a full year of employment. I'm guessing, I don't know. So, ask the question.
You just did.
No.
Why did we bring them up to 165, 185? Why are we going to 185? Where does that come?
I'll be happy to answer. When the mayor and I negotiated this contract last year, we negotiated his salary this year to 160.
Okay. So then why is the salary range going up to 185?
Can we go through the whole transparency thing at this point in time?
Please.
Yeah, sure. I mean, Ludian.
Read it out, folks.
So, as his base salary would be the $160,000, there is a component for a contribution to deferred compensation in lieu of pension contribution and a health benefit reimbursement. The sum of those, all of those compensable factors comes in just under $185,000.
What does an average employee pay percentage-wise to their pension? What do you pay towards your pension?
Believe it's about 12 for members of the PERS system. I believe it's around 13%.
Town's contribution is that much.
Town's
Yeah,
contribution?
Employee
correct.
contributes as well.
We
Sorry about that,
negotiated
yeah.
10%, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah, oh, I know. I just think it would have been better off doing this as a contract over 4 years, not 1 year, all at once. And it would have been better for the public taxpayer, because you have budget season coming up. And I know it's not going to be an easy budget, because I know we have bonds and everything else that we've done last year that you guys got to find room to fit into our budget. But it's not, and this isn't going to go well with us, the taxpayers. I mean, it's not a good thing.
Well, I just wanted to answer your question, like what happened last year in negotiation, because the mayor and I were the only two there. So what I told you is exactly what happened
and I
as it
appreciate it.
happened.
So honestly, we met with Brian. Brian brought comparable salaries, and we negotiated the salary.
So if any employee brings Brian a negotiable salary from other places, will that be?
So there's a little bit different. It's a little bit different. Brian is by contract. Being an employee by contract myself, that person sits down and negotiates. I mean, all fairness, we could call him the executive director of the town. We could call him whatever title we want to call him. He's in the town. I did feel very comfortable when I voted that salary. I did not feel that it was an unreasonable salary at $160,000, looking at all the other salaries that were around. I did not feel uncomfortable with that.
Well, then that's fine, but I still feel uncomfortable. $10,000 waiver to go take health benefits someplace else, $16,000 to double dip our pension system?
It's not to double dip.
It is double dipping. When
No,
you're offering two
it's
pensions
not for
to
the
somebody.
pension.
You're offering two
Can we
pensions.
get a legal rendering for Tina so
I
she
can-
understands
I
it's
can-
not double dipping?
I can tell you that we looked into it, and the 457 plan is a different animal, and it's permissible.
I mean, we know double
I'm
dipping is
not
illegal.
saying it's not permissible. It's embarrassing to taxpayers that have to do it, is what it's.
Well, the pensions are, contribution of pensions for other employees are afforded. This was a contribution we made in lieu of that. And as I said before, we pay for employee benefit, health benefits over $30,000, and our reimbursement to the manager was $10,000.
So Jeff Mayfield was here for 4 years.
He didn't need any because he had health benefits somewhere else.
And so does he.
He buys them. We reimburse him the $10,000 he spends.
Okay, so he gives you a receipt for the money he spends on it?
Well, he doesn't give it to me, Tina, but I'm sure you can ask the professionals if they get a written documentation of the $10,000.
Documentation that goes towards benefits?
No, health benefits.
No, he's made a representation in his contract. I mean, I suppose we can ask him for proof of it, but typically there's an element of trust.
I mean, if he's getting it from another source, as, you know, from his fire district or something else, that means he's not paying for him there.
Yes,
well,
he is.
I will follow up with him.
So, that's my, all I want to say is, this is horrible to do this to our employees and to make them look like this. It's horrible to do this all at once. I wish you guys would have done this over a 4-year period at least, and that's just the way I feel. And I know a lot of other taxpayers that feel the same way. And I get what you're going to do, but trust me, it is a slap in the face to your employees that have to fight for 1%, 1.5, and 2%. It's a slap in the face to every resident here that fights to pay their taxes and only gets a 2% raise, if that, if they're lucky. So you know what? It's more than just affecting what's right here. It's affecting everybody in this town.
Tina, you did mention that he is saving the town $20,000 by not taking our benefits, correct? Did anybody say that?
Jeff
Okay.
Mayfield didn't take any.
Okay, but again, he's not Jeff Mayfield, right? He's a new, it is 2000, it is, maybe we do. 2019, it's 2019, right? Brian's contract was negotiated. What if he wasn't a cop, a retired cop, and he was a cop off the street? Would we not be paying him full benefits? A cost more to the town
I have no
taxpayers?
problem with doing
But
it if
Tina,
you do it under the legal
but give-
aspect.
but if
he was
you're
out
gonna-
there doing that, he would be paying into the benefit system.
Okay.
And he would
He's saving the township money that way, okay?
raise his salary up to match every other, how much is he saving it? He's matched to everybody else. What do you
He's
think?
not.
And we have an assistant manager that we're paying $36,000 for. And I love Herman because I think he's the only one in this town that really knows what he's talking about.
Well, that's not very nice to our professionals over there.
Not only one he's talking about, but when it comes
Thank
to
you.
Howell,
Thank
not
you.
everybody. But when it comes to Howell, when it comes to our properties, when it comes to what's going on in Howell,
Yes, Jim
I
is
know
very
if I
good.
ask Jim, I know I'm going to get an answer.
But I think Joe Clark just said that...
No, Joe, I'm talking about.
Okay, well, I mean, we're
It's a
trying to be
little
fair,
different.
right? We're trying to be fair across the board. And we are trying to be fair, and we've been dealing with this, I mean, I'm only here since January, right? And I think this has been on our executive, 5 times we've been talking about this, so please don't think that we're taking this lightly, Tina, because...
I don't
Let
think
me
you take it
finish,
lightly.
please. I understand that, but you only give your half of the story, okay? I read what you post. I know what you write. You give your half. Mr. Bonovich, Mayor Berger, all of us, we have not taken this lightly. We have had numerous discussions, arguments, fights, documentation, paperwork, so please don't make it appear that we're not doing our job, because we are doing the best with what we were dealt with, to be fair. And we're trying to make the best of a situation to be fair to Brian, because Brian deserves his contract. That was negotiated. So to be fair, okay? I understand what you're saying, 110%, but here we are, dealing with something that's not normal, that hasn't...
So you're saying the outgoing council left you with a mess? The 2 people here in the outgoing council left you with a mess? Is that what you're
That's
saying?
not what I said, but you
No,
can...
I'm asking a
No, that's
question.
not what I said. They left us with a very difficult situation that we are trying to filter through and make the best out of it and come up with a solution that's best for everybody. So please don't pretend to understand that what we're doing up here is easy, because it's not, number one. And number two, I read your stuff, and it's not fair, because you give one side. You make it as if we are doing stuff... No, I'm not, Tina, you come here and talk, I have no problem talking to you, okay? So... But I just wanted to be fair to everybody involved. We don't take it lightly, and we're doing the best job we can, and we've had numerous conversations about it. And I need the public to know that.
Okay.
Thank you.
My final word is just, I think it's an unfair contract. I think it's unfair to our employees, and I think it's a slap in the face to them. All right? You have your opinion. That's my opinion. I don't believe this is a valid contract according to different laws. Of course, you know, you do what you have to do, and I think it's very unfair that the public didn't get to view this and have a public comment on it. I don't think that is fair at all, and I hope you never again put a contract out that we can't have public comment on. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tina.
Sandra Solly, Birdsall Road, Farmingdale. I have to agree with some of the things that Tina just said about the range. and the things, and then 2 weeks ago, the manager said that job increases, salary increases are based on their experience. So now we're talking about someone with 1 year's experience here, and we're talking about a deputy manager. So if there's so much experience for this $185,000, why do we need to pay for a deputy manager?
Sandra?
Yeah.
I mentioned this, I believe it was 2 meetings ago, that we are a very, very large town. We're the 32nd largest town in the state. We're the largest in Monmouth County. We have a lot of
Space-wise.
space. Well, we're the second largest in Monmouth County in population,
Right.
behind Middletown. I see how this township operates. I see the inner workings of it, and it runs fantastically. They do a great job. I think I used a Donald Trump word, fantastically, I think. But I think that this town, I think Jim does a great job up there with Brian and Joe. So having that extra spot, I believe, and just from what I see up there and working, I would hope that my colleagues would agree with me, is necessary for a town of this size, with this many residents, with this many employees, with this much stuff going on in town.
Just to tap into what Tommy was saying, you know, I have spoken to Jim at length and Brian when Brian's on vacation or Brian's tied up. You know, there has to be a succession plan, right? So if Brian ups and leaves, we need someone who has been there on a day-to-day basis, seeing the day-to-day operation. You know, the township's not going to run itself, right? So if Brian leaves or anything happens, we need that something in place, as we do with I think all the department heads, if you ask me. Because I think he deserves to go on vacation, if he gets sick, if he gets hit by a bus, whatever the case may be. You want someone to be able to step in and seamlessly run this township without anyone knowing that, you know, Brian's not here, or it's Jim, if it's whoever. 2 weeks ago, Jim wasn't here. We missed you. But there was someone sitting there in place of him, right, running the meeting. So that's, I think, if I can speak, as why we decided to do something in that place, put a deputy, whatever that title is. Maybe, yes, no?
Well, my question is, if someone is so fully prepared to handle the job for which the salary is based, and we have an assistant CFO, but there's no assistant CFO sitting over there next to the CFO. That's my question.
Mr. Herman is sitting here for community development.
But he's not being paid for deputy manager?
Mr. Herman gets a stipend for deputy manager. The decision was made at the time when Jeff Mayfield was leaving and Jim took over in lieu of Jeff at that point. The other piece of that is that Jim has a lot of, I want to call, industrial knowledge that maybe Brian does not. And so I'm going to go into that general thought process that he's helped Brian throughout the time. I'm sure he's helped the rest of us up at council. So again, I have to say, at that point, I felt quite comfortable with the stipend that we gave him because he was actually educating all of us.
And then my last question would be, on these other towns that they make more than $185,000, do they all have a deputy manager sitting next to them on the dais?
I don't know. I really don't have that information to
You're
answer.
comparing those figures. She's got that big sheet.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're talking about the township manager. That's the No, you asked about a deputy. I do not know the answer to that because that was not the research that I did, or we did, I should say.
I asked the question, do all these other towns that are making the $185,000 or more, do they also have a deputy manager on the payroll?
And I just answered that wasn't part of my research. Our research was to talk about the township manager. If you would like that information, I'm sure it's out on the internet somewhere.
I'm not looking for it.
Me either.
Mrs. Sully, I can only assure you that we've been assured that the deputy manager is a position that is needed. So we trust what our professionals are saying, that they require something, as though we would trust a department head that comes in and said, they need new tires for their trucks. Whatever, I'm using an example, obviously. So we trust what the professionals tell us. If they have a need, we try to fill that need. Should it change in the future, that need doesn't exist any longer, or perhaps something else happens. But there are many assistants, to present employees. And they don't sit next to them at a public meeting, you're correct. And Jim is here, Mr. Herman is here in another department. But it's not uncommon for departments to have assistants. And I can only tell you that we've been assured that there is this need, and we've tried to meet that need.
The only reason I'm asking is because Tina is asking all these detailed questions. And I'm saying I agree with her about the range for someone that's only had 1 year's experience here and maybe 1 year's experience in another town after being a policeman for 25 years, 28 years?
That's a pretty good background of experience, I would say, but in life. But as we talked about a little earlier, there's a contributory amount of money as opposed to a pension, and then there is a reimbursement of health benefits. So the 160 plus and plus, if that helps, I don't know if it helps you decipher
A little
the
bit.
guide.
I was just wondering.
And I think I've been over this on the phone with you as well, but
Not to any detail, Mrs. O'Donnell. Thank you.
I'll be happy to put it on paper. When I'm done, I'll bring it down, I'll just show you all the numbers, but I don't know that that's going to, comfort you.
No, like Mrs. Smalik was saying, the original contract was not made available. And then now we're talking about transparency, and why wasn't it? And then it was done by resolution, not an ordinance in the beginning. An ordinance and a resolution are two different animals.
I can only tell you that I couldn't try any harder to be transparent than I am tonight.
I'm not talking about yours.
And I will tell you, just to chime in, the contract doesn't need to be ratified by ordinance. Resolution is fine. An ordinance is typically reserved for things such as expenditure of funds and that. So there are some categories that require an ordinance, others allow a resolution. Signing the contract's one of those.
The only reason I'm asking is because the garden, they had an ordinance that said they could rent it for $1 a year, and it was done by ordinance, not a resolution. He said it, not me.
Would anybody else want to come up for this topic?
Paul Dorado, 27 Firestone Drive. I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about individual salaries. I'm just going to talk in general, more towards the council. What you have coming up here in 2019, you do have a tremendous amount of debt in this particular town, pretty much in every town in New Jersey. You do have a debt payment that is coming due. You also have the cost of your debt service, which maybe Lou would look this up. I think it's about $400,000. So in other words, we lose $400,000 on the cost of money. So when you have an opportunity to kind of cap your cost, you have to take advantage of it, okay? And this is no disrespect to anybody's salary. I wouldn't want it done to me. I'm not going to say it at certain figures, but your number one expense is labor. And for this town to move forward, for any business, and let's be honest, it's a $50 million budget, it's a business, you have to reduce expenditure and expenses. Otherwise, it will just operate in the red, and we'll just have future debt for other people that take long. If you think it's tough now, wait till the budget comes. I've seen the budget. I remember a couple of the things off the top of my head, and it's a lot. It's going to be complicated. So that would be my suggestion, is if you have an opportunity, even, I don't want to talk about it again, even the McKenzie House, I mean, you're going to have to make some kind of hard decisions on it. So, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Okay.
Bart Buono, 3 Grindstone Road in Howell. I just have a problem. I think everybody keeps saying how much work and how big Howell is and how you're throwing numbers out there that are astronomical. $185,000 puts you in the top 1% of the 1%ers. I mean, you are at the top of the, you know what I mean? The people in the Senate, you know, the senators make that. We're running Howell Township. We're not running the United States of America. I just think the numbers are off kilter. You go from 115 to 185. At 115, it was respectful. The attorney's making it around 120, 130. I personally think the attorney deserves that. The guy beneath him or side by side him.
I agree.
Well, the guy,
Yeah, me too.
The guy side by side him is making, they're pretty much on equal basis. So you're okay with that. But then when you take it from one level and you take it and you almost put another, you know, $60,000 onto someone's salary, while our services in Howell are greatly reduced every year. You can't get bulk pickup, you can't get tree pickup, there's nothing you can get in this town. I mean, everything, they closed everything down, but on the flip side is, you turn around and you just throw $50,000 to the wind. And I don't know him personally, the man, I don't care to. I mean, he's an employee of the town. I don't have nothing against him personally, obviously, I don't know the gentleman. But when you just take money like that and you throw it to the wind, and then you take that and you keep throwing that list, he's at the lower end. Well, he's not at the lower end, because if you take the fact of the towns that are out there, I want to see, like you're saying, they brought up a good point. He's at 185 plus the one that's next to him is making another $40,000. So take those numbers and add them. Now, what did that put him at the top end? You know? And you know what? And we live in New Jersey. Don't throw numbers around. That's why New Jersey is as unaffordable as it is. It's not just Howell. It's the state of New Jersey. Money doesn't mean nothing. It's just like, you look at the governor we have. Oh, well, he pays $200,000+.
So I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, I really don't. But I just wanted to come back to the topic at hand. So if we're talking about this salary ordinance, so if there's another comment that you want to make, I'm sorry, please forgive me, please, about the ordinance, about what's going on the state level, we cannot control. We can only try and help what we're doing in Howell. So if it's relevant to the topic.
It is. She threw a list that has this other towns involved, right? That encompasses the state. Did she not include the state?
County, I think.
She did. So stick to Howell. Howell's unaffordable.
It is It is Monmouth County.
It doesn't matter, it's not Howell.
No, you
She
asked
asked
if it was
about-
the state. I said, no, it's the county.
Is the county part of the state?
It most certainly is.
Then you answered my question.
Okay, can we reserve this conversation till after we talk about the ordinance to later on? Because as the mayor did say, we need to stay on the topic of the ordinance.
The ordinance is this is too much money going out of our budget that we cannot afford, we do not have, and no one is happy about it. Like I said to you, if you told me that from 115, the gentleman went up to 130, everybody says cost of living, a slight increase, no doubt about that, everything goes up. But when you take something like that and you turn it around and you almost take a person's salary and you almost double it, yeah, that is a slap in the face, and that is not the way it should be handled, and I think it should be brought to the attention of the town people, and the town should vote on that, not 5 people on a stand, and some of them that weren't even part of, and nothing against you guys, like I said, but it's too big of a thing just to take and say, well, I think this is the way it should go, so let's stamp it, and that's it, it's done.
So I just want to say that when we negotiated the 160, Brian was at 145. Am I correct, Brian?
135.
I'm sorry, 135. So when we did the analysis, we did see that it was low.
Comparative to the state.
Commensurate to
the state.
Commensurate to wherever they pulled the data from, yes, maybe the state.
So first of all, that's not fair, because like I said to you, you cannot take that into, every town is different, every town's budgets are different. I used to live in Tinton Falls. I had bulk pickup. I had garbage that was included in my taxes. So if you start taking, we get nothing in Howell. Everything is, it's like going to a restaurant, everything's à la carte. You know, you want this, it's this. You want this, it's this. You want this, it's that. So by the time you start adding up your $10,000 worth of property taxes, you got to add another $5,000 worth of miscellaneous. So, so that's why what I'm saying is you can't take, now if you're looking at a place that's in an Abbott district that's paying $4,000 in property tax, and they see something like that, you know what it is, they're not going to say anything about it because their taxes are so low. But we got everything stacked against us. Our taxes are high, our services are reduced, get greatly reduced, and keep getting reduced. And people are just, well, he's only making $185,000. I mean, that's absurd. I mean, the attorney makes $130, but our town manager makes $185, which would be okay if it was, like I said to you, if he was making. The guy that left was making 117 and change. So if you take the average, and how long ago this was only a year ago.
A year and a half?
A year and a half ago, you went from paying somebody $117,000 to today, a year later, paying for the same job, $185,000 plus another $40,000, which was the other gentleman, his assistant there when the other guy was there?
No, he was brought in.
Exact. So you're paying
Correct,
180, so you're paying.
Just to make a point, Mr. Mayfield was a full-time deputy manager before he was the manager.
But
And we had a
despite the $40,000 that he's getting now is extra above and beyond?
No. Mr. Mayfield, when he first started, was a full-time deputy manager.
Okay.
Where he made, I think, on the order of $90-something thousand.
Okay.
On top of having a combined CFO and manager at the time who was higher than that. So there's been a case where there's been at least two people handling the position for probably a couple of years already. So just to make sure that's out there.
But that particular position, the $40,000, when did that get started?
Once again, the position was previously full-time as just deputy manager, okay? So Mr. Mayfield, back in 2000 and let's say 14, was hired as a full-time deputy manager because the town was so large and had so much going on. We had a full-time CFO/manager and a full-time deputy manager.
And what do we have today?
A full-time manager and a part-time deputy manager. It's the same thing.
Like I said to you, but the thing is you went from 115 in a year and a half. A year and a half, I'm telling you, you got whoever's job. This job is, job A, pays 117 and change. And a year and a half later, we're at $185,000 for the same job. Where do I apply?
We're actually at 160.
Yeah.
160.
He's getting 185. Forget about how you're getting to that 185 figure. Plus, on top of that, if the fact is, if you come in and you forego your insurance, you should not be rewarded for that. Because the way the law states is, if you have insurance, you're insured. I don't have to give you extra money to say, good job, you got insurance. So Jackson is picking up his tab on his insurance, which they should, because that was
That's not correct.
Oh, I don't know who is.
Please don't believe everything that's published on Facebook. It's not accurate. I pay for my medical benefits through my pension. It's called Chapter 330.
Right, but you shouldn't get extra money if you choose that. You shouldn't have that choice. This is the job I'm giving you. Do you want it or don't you want it?
So he should just take our benefits for $30,000 and not save the township 20? You'd be surprised. The mayor wanted to give him more. Right? To be fair,
I'll give him the benefits.
You'll give him the benefits for $30,000?
That's right.
Wait, what, wait, hold on.
I don't understand that.
You would want to pay him an extra $20,000?
No, I want him, I would.
That's what it would cost.
I would give it, doesn't matter, it doesn't go into his pocket.
Oh, it goes in the form of health benefits, yes,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter, don't worry, because you guys are not worried about money, because the way that the Howell's running, you're not worried about money. What I'm saying to you is that $10,000 does not benefit him financially. If he was to say, I'm going to forego your $10,000 and I'm going to take your benefits, he would have to go and he would get the benefits, but no one would be putting that $10,000 into his pocket.
That's not true. If I could jump in.
Yeah, Joe, just explain, please.
Under the terms of his contract, if the township manager were to go onto our benefits, then he would forfeit the stipend. It's expressed in the contract.
Right.
It's not like he gets the 10,000 and can elect
No, I didn't say
township
that. That's why I said
benefits.
I would rather him take the benefits and forego the stipend.
Could you, please, just give me the logic behind that? I'm
lo-
just asking.
The logic is because it's a financial gain for him that way as opposed to the other way. Elsewise, why wouldn't he take the benefits?
I can't go into it too deeply as I talked with Ms. Smilek, but it's a financial loss to the township. It's a net $20,000 loss for the cost of the benefits.
If he opted to do that.
Right.
So then give him the option, and don't give him the option, just make him do that. And I'm saying to you that there's a reason why he's doing that. It's got to be a financial benefit. He's not an idiot. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. So I'm sure he figured it out. Give me my 10. I pay, for example, into the other one, maybe cost me 4, 5, 6, whatever it cost them. There's got to be a reason.
Well, all due respect, have you looked at the cost of health benefits? Just all due respect,
With all due-
5,000 is
With all
not
due
covering
respect,
health
I am in
benefits.
the healthcare business.
So am I.
No, I'm a chiropractor. I deal with insurances all the time.
But that doesn't mean that
Doesn't
he could
matter.
get
There
benefits for
has to-
$5,000.
Right. It does, because you got to remember one thing. He is paying into his benefits. Doesn't mean he is funding the full benefit. When you pay into a benefit, state employees pay into a benefit. They pay a percentage of the benefit, and then the town or state picks up the rest. Again, so for him to do that, there has to be a financial reason. My answer to you is, he looks like a smart man to me. He doesn't look like a dummy. He's a cop. He's well-rounded, whatever. For him to take 10,000 from Howell and turn around and say, well, he's paying for his benefits, which I believe him, and is paying 20,000 for that plan and taking a $10,000 loss, I don't think he's doing that. Right? Would you do it?
How do I know that man is not doing that? He's paying for his health benefits.
Would you do that? If I gave you the option to say, here's...
You know what, I just have to chime in, because I say we're getting very far afield,
Yeah.
and, we're getting to a point where you're practically accusing the township manager of active fraud.
I'm
So,
not accusing anything of anybody.
I think that if you have a point about the salary ordinance, you can make it. You've had a chance to speak. If there's any final comments you want to make, I think that everybody would appreciate that.
My final thing is, just think of the Howell residents. Like I said to you, if you stop and think what we pay in taxes, if we keep going down this road, everyone is going to be forced just to turn over their keys to the township, take your house, because between taxes now, I told you, are outrageous. The way they're increased, and I've been here 9 years. I grew up in Howell. I've been here my entire life. My family had restaurants in the town. And I know what Howell was 50 years ago, and I know what Howell is today, and it's a disgrace. You get nothing besides beat up on tax. And a disgrace, not because you look at me like I'm insulting you.
Sir, hold on.
I'm not
Real
insulting
quick,
you.
I'm a little insulted, sir, because we have the best schools, some of the best schools in the state. We have the best police department in the state. I'm a product of the school system. I was there. I'm sure you were too.
I was too.
I know. I'm just saying that this town is a great town that people are trying to get into, actually.
It's a great town that's mismanaged. It is a great town. It's mismanaged.
Okay,
And that's why the taxes are where they are today. And that's why the services that we're getting for our tax dollars are where they are today.
Listen, as a private citizen, you can have your opinions of the management of the town. That's fine. That's fine, of course. I'm not saying that at all. But to say that Howell isn't a great town, it hurts a little bit. I'm just saying.
It's a great
That's all.
town being mismanaged. Let me rephrase
That's
that.
fine.
Again, I just want to reiterate, and I said this before to Tina Smilek before, I'm going to say it to you. Make no mistake about this. We have been bartering, arguing, fighting, discussing, yelling, screaming about this ordinance and about what has been going on. So I am a little insulted that you stand up there for the first time. I've been here, how many meetings have we been in? I haven't seen you speak your mind, okay, to be fair. We spend time with these professionals, and the 5 of us up here put a lot of time into this. This is not an easy decision, okay? We have aches and pains, and so make no mistake, this is not an easy thing for us to do, but we're trying to do what's best for all the parties included. So for you to stand up there and insult us, yes?
Don't yell.
I'm sorry. For you to insult us up here and the professionals, that's not fair either.
I never insulted anybody at all. I'm just making statements. And remember, opinions are just that. They're opinions.
Yes,
And
we
I'm entitled to
absolutely
mine,
agree.
and
You
you're
are,
entitled to
you
yours.
are, but there are times when an opinion can sometimes seem a little off.
Opinions cannot be that. That's why they're opinions. You might disagree with my opinion, and I disagree with yours, and that's why you have the argument. That's why you discuss things.
And I will say it's my opinion now that we're getting pretty far afield of where we originally started. We may want to wrap it up.
Thank you, sir.
And please take that into consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Just give me a minute, I'll let you know. I'm lost. 14. I read it, right? We need a motion? Mm-hmm. May I please have a motion for the ordinance? 10.3.
A motion that ordinance number 019-4 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption will be published in the March 22nd, 2019 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only. Please second. You can.
I'll second.
Right on.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
No.
Ms. Richmond?
I choose to abstain.
Mr. Russo?
I abstain.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Interesting. So interesting. I vote no for the ordinance. I voted yes for the salary increase.
Mayor, your vote was no?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Ordinance does not pass. 10.4. Is that what we're on, 10.4? Yep.
Okay. 10.4. Ordinance number 0-19-15, 10.4, amend Chapter 139 fee ordinance, shooting range use. Ordinance number 0-19-15, introduced and passed on first reading on 3/5/19 and published according to law, is now being taken up for further consideration and public hearing. Affidavit of publication of this ordinance in the Asbury Park Press issue of 3/8/19 is submitted and is noted that a copy of the ordinance has been posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building and that the copies were available to the general public upon request. I would like to open this.
We're going to read the title of the ordinance
Yes, I'm sorry,
first.
Penny.
An ordinance of the Township of Howell amending Chapter 139, Article 27, shooting range use, Section 79 use by outside agencies of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Howell.
Okay. I would like to open this portion. Barbara?
Barbara Dixell, 62A Piazza Vittoria, Freehold, New Jersey. How many shooting ranges are there? The fire and police or one?
I believe we have one, don't we?
We only have one, Mayor.
The firing range, right? That would be for both fire?
I know very well we only have one because it is right in my backyard.
Okay, but that's another reason why, because I would like, what kind of fees are you going to charge outside agencies?
I believe we currently, don't we currently?
We do charge currently. They haven't been adjusted in a number of years.
Okay, so they're going to get a raise?
Yes.
Okay, can I ask you to possibly think of adding something if you can? I do know residents live in that area, and they hear the shooting at all kind hours of the day and the night. It's mind-boggling, it wakes you up, it destroys your life, you have no peace. Can there be some type of language put in, and teeth put in your ordinance, please, that if you're doing this now, and fees, can you do something to make the neighborhood residents' lives livable?
Okay, so just a comment first. Honestly, you don't hear it anymore. You hear it in the very beginning. I don't even hear it anymore. I have to be honest.
Well-
I live very close, and there's only one, maybe two houses in that same location, but my backyard butts it. So,
Well, I know other people that do, and other people's lives, are
well, I
very,
mean, but,
very upset.
we need for the police office to, practice. It's a good option.
I understand that, but can they at least, can there be hours that maybe things don't have to start 6, 7 o'clock in the morning and go on until later? Can
I'll
there
say
be some
this.
kind of reasonable hours?
I'll say this. I would like to take that into consideration. I would like to talk to Chief and Brian to see if that's an option. If it is, we will absolutely help, take care of it. If not, then not.
I understand that. I'm not here
Okay.
to beat people's brains.
Agreed.
I'm not here to accuse your ordinance of anything. I'm just, basic respect for dignity and quality of life of Howell's residents. That's all I'm asking.
We hear you.
I know
I hear you
people-
very loud and clear.
I know people who live in the area, not in maybe your area, but on another side or whatever, and people, again, near the Navy Earls, and near this, and near the radiating range, and it starts in the early morning, and it goes on till God knows when, and you go flying out of your skin. Can there be some type of respect for the safety, health, and welfare, and the dignity and the quality of life for Howell's residents? That's all I am asking for, which is not unreasonable and should be put in the
Why are you
ordinance.
yelling if it's not unreasonable?
I'm not yelling because it's
Barbara,
upsetting.
Barbara,
Thank
I
you.
just said,
Thank you.
I'm taking it into consideration, and I would like to meet with Brian and Chief Kudrick and have a discussion.
That's all I would request, is that
My absolute pleasure.
the quality of people's lives in this town
Understood,
needs more
Barbara, I get it.
respect than what goes, I understand they need to shoot for their job, for their qualification, for hitting whatever they're trying for to better themselves.
Agreed.
But
I hear you.
people.
hear you loud and clear.
Quality of life and the dignity of the people who live in this town is very, very important. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
May I have a motion?
Motion that ordinance number 0-19-15 be finally passed and adopted, and that notice of its passage and adoption be published in the 3/22/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press by reference to its title only.
I'll second.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Ordinance 0-19-16, 11.1. No? I'm in the next one. Amend Chapter 188-11, Land Use, Accessory Structures, Pool Cabana. Would someone make a motion?
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-16 on its first reading by title and to order the same to be published in the March 22nd, 2019 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on April 2nd, 2019 at 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second.
Title of an ordinance amending Chapter 188 Land Use, Article 3, Accessory Buildings and Miscellaneous Structures, Section 11, entitled Accessory Buildings of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell. Roll call, Mr. Bonavich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Ordinance 0-19-17. 11.2,
You're right.
Okay. Amend Chapter 188-12, Land Use Accessory Structures, Fences on Corner Lots. May I have a motion?
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-17 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in the 3/22/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on April 2nd, 2019, at 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second?
Title of ordinance, an ordinance amending Chapter 188 Land Use, Article 3, Accessory Buildings and Miscellaneous Structures, Section 12, entitled Fences and Walls of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell. Roll call, Mr. Bonavich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. 0-19-18, 11.3, amend Chapter 188-36, Land Use, Corner Lots, Definition of Accessory Structures. May I have a motion?
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-18 on first reading by title and to the order the same to be published in the March 22nd, 2019 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on April 2nd, 2019 at 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance amending Chapter 188 Land Use, Article 5, Lots and Yards, Section 36, entitled Corner Lots of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell. Roll call, Mr. Bonavich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Ordinance 0-19-19, 11.4, amend Chapter 188-4, Land Use Definition Update, Mother, Daughter, and Pool Cabana. May I have a motion?
Motion to introduce ordinance number 01919 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in the March 22nd, 2019 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on April 2nd, 2019, 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance amending Chapter 188 Land Use, Article 1, Title, Purpose, Definitions, Section 4, entitled Definitions and Rules of General Applicability of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Howell. Roll call, Mr. Bonavich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. 0-19-20, 11.5, amend Chapter 188-4, Land Use Guarantees, Inspections, and Off-Track Improvements. May I have a motion?
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-20 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published in the 3/22/19 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on April 2nd, 2019 at 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
I'll second.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance of the Township of Howell, County of Monmouth, State of New Jersey, amending and supplementing Article 7 of the Township's Code entitled Guarantees, Inspections, and Off-Track Improvements. Roll call, Mr. Bonavich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Ordinance 0-19-21, 11.6, purchase of land, Block 42, Lot 88, Lakewood Allenwood Road, open space. May I have a motion?
Motion to introduce ordinance number 0-19-21 on first reading by title and to order the same to be published on the March 22nd, 2019 issue of the Asbury Park Press, together with notice of its introduction and passage on first reading by title, and that it will be further considered for final passage after public hearing at a meeting of the Township Council to be held on April 2nd, 2019 at 7:30 PM prevailing time in the municipal building.
Second.
Title of ordinance, an ordinance of the Township of Howell authorizing the acquisition of land known as Block 42, Lot 88, on the tax map of Howell for the purposes of open space. Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes.
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Is there any unfinished business?
I do have a question.
Me too, go ahead, you
Okay.
first.
We have a special meeting on April 2nd, as we all know, but at 6 PM. Is it possible to utilize that evening to go over the ordinance after that presentation? Never mind. Well, we'll just be doing it anyway. Thank you. Yeah, I looked at that as 3 separate meetings. My apologies.
Okay.
I have a question, I guess, and Joe, I guess this is for you. So with that salary ordinance that was voted down, what happens to Brian's contract or his salary or whatever? What happens next?
Well, correct. So the ordinance didn't pass tonight, so I will be polling council first thing in the morning about it. Right now, I think everything is on hold. The contract is not, so to speak, activated because there's no salary ordinance allowing for the payment of a salary that's consistent with this contract. So we have to go back to work and find something that we can get in front of council and go through the whole thing again. First reading, second reading.
I
And
would
that's
just,
where we are right now.
I would ask and recommend that the members of the council who were there, who created the contract, Deputy Mayor O'Donnell, Mayor Berger, meet with them immediately to get this squared away.
So Tommy, so we
I'm
don't...
not quite sure I understand. I'm sorry.
No, go
I'm
ahead.
not
I
quite sure
was
understand
confused
what
too,
you're
so.
saying.
You don't, what do you don't understand?
I'm sorry.
The contract was squared away.
The ordinance, because the ordinance activates, like our council just said, the contract, it
Understood.
memorializes the contract. I don't feel comfortable not being a party to the contract, doing this. I think that the people who were in the room, who negotiated the contract, are in the best position to negotiate and formulate, create this salary ordinance.
I have no issue with that. If
Nor
that
do
would work.
I. I've been asking for that for 3 meetings.
So by us abstaining, it kind of keeps us out of...
Was this done, the mayor said she asked for it for 3 meetings. Was this ever set up, Joe?
I
Or Brian?
asked for the change in ordinance, for the number in the ordinance multiple times, Tom.
I'll say, in terms of that specifically, I don't know if there were exactly what the nature of it was, but I know going forward, starting tomorrow, I'll reach out to the mayor and deputy mayor, and we'll drill down on a new ordinance. And Councilwoman Richmond, you had a question about the abstention?
No,
or-
I
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to be clear when Tommy was asking, so that's,
Okay.
thank you, though.
Gotcha.
Okay, meeting dates, there's a special meeting on Tuesday, April 2nd at 6 PM for NJAW transmission main for Green Acres public hearing. After that, there will be executive session 6:30 and regular session at 7:30. And then the second meeting for the month is April 16th, 2019, 6:30 for executive and 7:30 for regular session. I would entertain a motion.
And just quickly, I'm out the April 16th.
Okay.
A motion to adjourn, please.
May I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, Mr. Bonovich?
Yes.
Ms. Richmond?
Yes.
Mr. Russo?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor O'Donnell?
Yes?
Mayor Berger?
Yes. Yes.